Well, good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 259 of the Prancing Pony podcast, where the Nazgûl give us the creeps, too.
Yeah, well, it's something about their habit of skinning the body off of orcs and stuff like that, but...
Seriously, you do that even to your friends?
Nah, no. But it's no use grumbling.
Nope.
So, folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I am Sean Marchese, the Lord of the Mark, and I am here with the Men of the West, who has often suggested we slip off and set up somewhere with a few trusty lads where there's good loot nice and handy.
Yes.
Alan Sisto.
Like old times, Sean, like old times.
Indeed.
It's hard to believe this, folks, but tonight we are going to spend most of the evening with Shagrat and Gorbag.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
Isn't that going to be pleasant? Such great company.
They're such delightful company, yeah.
So charming. As Sam learns the truth about Frodo in the last part of the last chapter of Book 4, The Choices of Master Samwise.
Which makes it the last chapter of the second volume of The Lord of the Rings.
That's right.
The Two Towers. Now, we're going to be starting The Return of the King and Book 5 next fall, but this may not be the last episode of the season. We'll see.
That's right.
In the meantime, folks, here at the Prancing Pony podcast, we are reading and talking our way through Tolkien's stories of Middle-earth, a few pages at a time.
We dive into the details, we point out connections to other writings, and we talk about our favorite themes.
But we also make sure we have a lot of fun along the way. So we're super glad you've joined us.
And we know you'll be glad you joined as well. But before we get to tonight's reading, it's time to hear from a special guest.
That's right, and this is a very special one.
Oh, yes.
A couple of weeks ago, we had the privilege of interviewing Leith McPherson, the dialect coach for Amazon Prime Video's upcoming Rings of Power television series.
Mm-hmm.
The full interview is going to be released as an episode on our Rings of Power wrap-up podcast tomorrow. So if these next few minutes intrigue you, well, we hope you'll give us a listen over there.
That's right. No matter your thoughts on the upcoming show, excitement, cautious hope, nervousness, or even disregard, we still think you'll enjoy hearing from Leith. She is a true Tolkien fan, a lover of language, incredibly good at what she does, and we really enjoyed getting to know her. Without further delay, then, here are a few minutes from the interview.
And you hinted at this a moment ago, and I think you said this in London too, that you strove to establish an auditory difference between realms. You really, I think what I took away from that is you wanted each culture, each place that we see on screen to have its own auditory soundscape in the way people talk. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you achieved that?
Yeah, so that actually clarified itself for me talking in London with, and it takes my breath away to say who I was on a panel with. I can't even, I try not to focus on it too much because you just want to squeal and scream at the top of your lungs and run around a lot. But John Howe, people.
I know.
Yeah.
John Howe. I just couldn't even believe it. And Ramsey Avery, who is the production designer for season 1, and these extraordinary artists, just honestly mind-blowing artists that you can have the most incredible conversations with, and also who truly bring this world to us. They bring my limited visual imagination into a landscape I could never have created myself. I'm just not that visual. I'm much more auditory.
But that's okay because you do the auditory, right? John
Right?
makes these tremendous drawings that you can't even conceive of, but you fill them with sound and speech. And it's something that he wouldn't be able to do. That's what I love about seeing this teamwork together and seeing JD and Patrick and hearing from you and John. It was just, Sean and I have talked about this a number of times. That set of conversations was what really helped us to become significantly more optimistic about this show and to overcome a lot of the doubts is the wrong word, but hesitations maybe, or underlying concerns. But we're really excited to see what's going on with this and what you've done in it in particular. We'll be listening.
Thank you. That's very kind. It really is an extraordinary gift. It's a gift to the show that the show can bring these people and they bring all of their talent and passion with them. Yeah. And this is genuinely a landscape in which you can work with this kind of mutual respect, and just have a sense of the teamwork that it takes because of Tolkien's focus on language as well. I don't feel like the odd one out. I really feel like I have a place within that extraordinary team. And that's astonishing to me, given the talent of these artists. And so Ramsey was talking about the creative briefs that happened with each of the cultures, and how you have this need, especially when you're working with television and you're going back between one scene and another and needing to pull somebody from this episode and bring them back to that world instantly in the next episode or whatever it might be, that you want a visual palette that immediately puts you into place. And so when Ramsay was talking about that in London, I thought, actually, yeah, that's what happens with the auditory as well. You want the ability to immediately know where you are because of the acoustic landscape as well. And so the decision was made in pre-production very early on for each of the different cultures to have a vocal landmark, a sort of a very clear indicator that now we are with the Harfoots, or now we are with the Southlanders, or now we are in Khazad-dûm, or wherever we might be. And so from there, we built accents that identify a realm or a culture as having a consistency within it. And within that process was a probably contentious, probably to be dissected by many people as we go along. There were choices made to make each of those accents pretty identifiable to people who have a familiarity with accents of the British Isles, as it were, but also accents that sound as though they are not from a very specific location. So I took qualities, say, of a Northern English accent, and then went for consistency within a culture, but not specificity as it relates to our world. You don't want to overlay the map of the British Isles onto the map of Middle Earth, because that...
Right, you don't want them to say, oh, they're from Birmingham. You want...
or you don't want people to say, all the dwarves sound Scottish or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. You want a feeling that there's consistency, but it's also it is a created accent. So we talk about the Harfoot accent, or the Dwarven accent, or the Southlanders accent, or whatever it might be. And because it is a created accent, and so it's about consistency across that with each of the actors who comes into work within that culture, but it doesn't have that sense of constantly needing to go for the authenticity of our world, because that can pull you out of the story in a way.
That is so exciting to me.
Oh, I can't wait to hear some of these examples.
I can't wait to start learning about the different accents.
So it's not just the fact that they'll be speaking different languages. It's not, we'll hear Sindarin here, we'll hear Quenya here, and we'll hear Khazad-dûm over here. It's that even when they're speaking English, we're going to be hearing that in different accents, but like you said, constructed accents, so that we're not placing them geographically in the primary world.
Exactly.
I love that. That's going to be exciting stuff.
Oh, I hope so.
Speaking of all of those languages, what kind of a role will Tolkien's invented languages play on screen? Maybe explore that a little bit further. Will we get a lot of Sindarin and Khazad-dûm? I know you talked about having it at very specific moments when you transition to those sort of prose versus poetry thing. I love that analogy, by the way. Anything else that you can tell us a little bit about those constructed languages?
Sure. Well, one of the biggest shifts for me, and I don't think this is a spoiler because you'll figure it out pretty quickly, is that my experience with Elvish was predominantly Sindarin until now. So at some point, I don't know how this decision was made. I wasn't part of this decision. It was already there when I joined the project. The main language of communication for our elves is actually Quenya.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was a big shift for me. I thought, okay, I knew about 10 spells, but I don't have a lot of vocab. And I should mention right now, before the emails start, that I don't do the translations. We have a team who were appointed by the estate, and I'm very pleased to say that they are the people who do the translations for us. So, excellent. Which is fantastic, because as we all know,
that's wonderful. Yeah,
it's so contentious. The language can be so contentious that the fact that all of that process was already there when I arrived, I thought, thank you.
I don't want that heat. I don't want that heat. Yeah.
I don't want that responsibility. I do not. Very occasionally, you might need to add a word here or there. Just, if a horse needs to, run faster, for example, we all know what to say. And so that's easy. Exactly. So that kind of contribution is easy, but to actually eloquently and accurately conjugate a full couple of sentences in Quenya is something that you just would, you are very grateful to hand over to the masters. So I get to do that, which is great.
Yeah. I'll help you with pronouncing it, but I'm not going to write it for you. Yeah.
Pronunciation, no problem at all. But conjugation, I still hesitate. Every time I look at a word and I think, well, yeah, I know it has that meaning there, but it didn't back in this place. And all of us know that there will be massive dissection about which,
absolutely.
The our people will go deep.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
On the use of this language. So you just think, okay, I'm going to leave it to people who have that overview. I have a lot of other things to focus on. And so that was for me a big catch up. I went back to school to get my Quenya, feeling like I just want to be able to work outside the illuminated part of the room. I just need that sense that I feel more confident than I certainly did in The Hobbit. There was not a lot of Quenya in The Hobbit. And so I wanted the ability to feel more at home with it and practice it. So that was the big shift for me, was the predominance of Quenya as opposed to Sindrin. And then there was some lovely new Nazgûl vocab that I learned. All of these opportunities. Every time we get translations through, it's a school day for me.
You're like, there's a word I didn't know before. Yeah. File that one away.
It's such a great, moment to go, oh, I've never seen that word before. Where did it come from? Where was this pulled? And as we know, there are so many different sources. And of course, because this is coming from translators who have been approved by the estate, that they have access to stuff we've never seen, still all of that material that you assume will be out there. I just keep imagining it will just roll on and on and on forever. There must be limitations to it, but coming out of the shadows is a word that I think I've never seen that anywhere before. And it's wonderful that we get to bring it to life here.
Oh, that's
so great.
Yeah, it's so great. It's so great. So Quenya for the win, friends. We're in Quenya town.
Again, if you'd like to hear more from Leith, please check out our other podcast, The Rings of Power Wrap-Up, wherever you listen to podcasts. Our full interview with her drops tomorrow.
And with that, let's go ahead and get back to the last few pages of Book 4 and catch up with a little trench talk from our Orcish officers. Alan, you want to start us?
Indeed, I will. All right, so we're going to join up with Sam. When we last left him at the end of the last episode, he had come across the way that the Orcs had gone, and it was blocked. And this was the tunnel coming out of Shelob's lair.
All right.
There seemed to be a great stone in the way, but the Orcs had got through somehow, for he could hear their voices on the other side. They were still running along, deeper and deeper into the mountain, back towards the tower. Sam felt desperate. They were carrying off his master's body for some foul purpose, and he could not follow. He thrust and pushed at the block, and he threw himself against it, but it did not yield. Then, not far inside, or so he thought, he heard the two captains' voices talking again. He stood still, listening for a little, hoping perhaps to learn something useful. Perhaps Gorbag, who seemed to belong to Minas Morgul, would come out, and he could then slip in.
"No, I don't know," said Gorbag's voice. "The messages go through quicker than anything could fly as a rule, but I don't inquire how it's done. Safest not to. Grr, those Nazgûl give me the creeps, and they skin the body off you as soon as they look at you, and leave you all cold in the dark on the other side. But he likes them. They're his favorites nowadays, so it's no use grumbling. I tell you, it's no game serving down in the city."
"You should try being up here with Shelob for company," said Shagrat.
"I'd like to try somewhere where there's none of them. The war's on now, and when that's over, things may be easier."
"It's going well, they say."
"They would," grunted Gorbag. "We'll see. But anyway, if it does go well, there should be a lot more room. What do you say? If we get a chance, you and me'll slip off and set up somewhere on our own with a few trusty lads. Somewhere where there's good loot nice and handy. And no big bosses."
"Ah," said Shagrat, "like old times."
"Yes," said Gorbag. "But don't count on it. I'm not easy in my mind. As I said, the big bosses, eh?" His voice sank almost to a whisper. Even the biggest can make mistakes." "Something nearly slipped, you say? I say something has slipped."
And that's where we'll stop for now.
All right. Well, we picked up right where we left off last week, with Sam noticing there's a big stone in the way. Remember, this was the block tunnel.
That's right.
But he can hear the voices of the Orcs on the other side of it, and he can tell that they're running farther into the mountain towards the tower.
That's right. With them taking Frodo's body and Sam's complete inability to follow, thanks to the tunnel being blocked, it gives him this real sense of desperation. I mean, you can really feel it now at this point. He's clawing at this rock, doing anything he can to try to get through because...
Yeah, throwing himself at it. I mean, it's just like,
literally hurling himself at a stone.
Yeah.
Surprisingly not to no avail. Yeah.
Not usually
When has that
a
ever
fight
worked?
that I win. No.
Especially if you're 3.5 foot tall.
Right. And this is, as we'll see, is like almost a 7-foot stone, basically.
Yeah. Force equals mass times acceleration, Sam. I just need to remind you of that.
Well, I don't know if we learned that in the Shire.
Maybe the rock is only like 1/4 of an inch thick. It's more like a piece of slate, really.
I don't know.
Okay.
So he's just trying to get this thing down, whatever it takes. But then he actually hears these two captains' voices again, and he decides to stop and listen. And what he's hoping is that maybe Gorbag, who he's determined is from Minas Morgul, which is actually correct. And he's inferred that from him talking about the Nazgûl, which we talked about last time. Mm-hmm. But he's hoping that Gorbag will actually leave to go back to Minas Morgul, and that's going to give Sam the chance he needs to sneak in.
That's right, to go and chase down Frodo. Now, Gorbag, when we pick up with him, is answering a question that we don't see. It's an unspoken, or at least an unreported question. But given how he answers, I'm thinking the question is something along the lines of, how do they get these messages back and forth between Minas Morgul and Barad-dûr so quickly? And the reason that I think that's the question is because he's basically saying, I don't know, but they go faster than anything could fly. And frankly, I don't want to know. It's probably safer that way.
Safest not to know. That's not comforting.
No, it is not comforting. How do we get messages? I don't know, but I don't want to know.
I don't want to know.
It's just communication, man.
But I don't know. But I mean, then he says what we're all thinking, right? The Nazgûl just give him the creeps.
Oh.
And I got to say, that's a phrase we don't see in Tolkien's writing very often. It gives me the creeps.
No, it isn't. It's a very kind of vernacular phrase to give me the creeps, right? Hammond and Skull point us, though, to an early draft in The Return of the Shadow where Trotter, now that's the hobbit that Aragorn would eventually replace, says to Frodo at Bree that the Black Riders give me the creeps. But this, give me the creeps, is the only appearance of the phrase in the published version of The Lord of the Rings.
And I'm kind of glad of that because I'm okay with it in the mouth of an orc. It's a very common kind of vernacular register that they use. You kind of expect it from orcs.
Yeah, I think so.
And I'm pretty certain that nobody needs us to actually define the creeps, but
probably not. Somebody
had to define it because it's in the OED, and the OED says that it means to induce a feeling of revulsion or fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just think it's telling that even orcs are afraid of the Nazgûl.
And revulsion is the other feeling that they generate, of course.
Yeah, kind of like just creepiness.
I think we know why, right? Because he mentions the torture that the Nazgûl seem to be known for, skinning the body off of you and then leaving you cold and dark on the other side. I guess everybody needs a hobby.
That is not a spa treatment that I'm going after anytime soon.
Would you like the facial or the entire skinning of the body?
Or we can skin the body off you.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
What exactly does cold and dark on the other side mean? Because this is really creeping me out.
It is creeping me out. That's giving me the creeps, right?
Right? Because it's like, okay, they're skinning the body off of you, which I think pretty much leaves you dead.
I would imagine. There's a part of me that was imagining skinning them quite literally, but I think what he's saying is they'll skin the body off of your soul.
That's what I'm thinking too.
And leave you cold and dark on the other side, right? You're in the emptiness. Yeah.
As in on the other side, as in dead.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like cold and dark. What do orcs believe happens to them after they die?
Oh man, we're going to get into orc belief of the afterlife?
Let's get into orc afterlife, man.
Oh my goodness.
Do you think orcs believe in hell, or do you think they just believe in annihilation? Like, what does cold and dark mean?
Total emptiness, like the
like
void?
A pure
the void.
Annihilation, like a nothing,
But not annihilation, right? I mean, Morgoth was put into the void, so he still exists, but he's in a nowhere.
Well, that's true. And if you're annihilated, you wouldn't be cold and dark, so there wouldn't be annihilation.
Right.
They must think that there's something for them on the other side, but just like a nothingness.
Well, I mean, I have to say cold and dark doesn't sound like the traditional Christian image of hell, right? I mean, the hellfire and brimstone, the burning, all right, everybody, breaks over. That's not what we think of when we think of hell.
No, but I mean, if you look at Dante's version of hell, which was, a medieval Catholic vision of hell.
Widely accepted version of it, yeah.
Yeah, so there's two things I'm thinking of there. So first of all, there's limbo, which is where basically the virtuous pagans live.
Okay.
And it's dark there, but I don't remember it being particularly cold. It's just dark. There's no light there. This is where people like Homer and Virgil are hanging out. They weren't Christians, so they can't go to heaven, but they're not punished because they were good people.
Okay.
But that's limbo. I don't see orcs going to limbo. The other thing that I think of is the very deepest part of hell in Dante's Inferno is a frozen pit.
Oh.
It's the pit where the treasonous are punished. But again, I almost feel like that's too much for orcs too. I don't think that Tolkien is really thinking of one of those particular circles of hell, but it is a very interesting idea of cold and dark on the other side. Maybe it is just a nothing, the void, and it's just the cold nothingness of empty space.
That is interesting.
That is creepy.
I think we need to maybe do some more digging into other mythologies that I don't know that maybe Tolkien was drawing on for how the orcs would envision their version of the afterlife. I don't know things off the top of my head, so I can't tell you, right? I mean, I can't say this mythology believes that, or or this belief believes that.
We can probably look into like Greek and Norse mythology and some of that stuff.
We'll look into that.
But yeah, that would be a fun one to dive into for the P5.
But that is interesting because it does mean they believe in something other than annihilation, right? And that is intriguing in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And you wonder if there's a little bit of the remnant of what they were converted from, what they were twisted from and corrupted from.
The remnant of other knowledge that they got from when they were elves or men.
Or men, depending on the source, yeah.
Yeah, depending on the version. And that reminds me of something we'll talk about a little bit later when we talk about the moral code.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Which is going to be the longest sidebar of the season, I suspect.
I think so, yeah.
All right.
So anyway, we'll get to that in a minute, but that is a fascinating question.
It really is.
But getting back to the text.
Yeah.
Referencing Sauron, Gorbag acknowledges, well, there's no point grumbling about him.
Well, that's true. You grumble about him too much, they're going to hear about it, and that's a bad point. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And Shagrat seems pretty unimpressed with Gorbag's first world problems,
Shagrat's generally unimpressed with Gorbag, yeah.
Well, that's true. You and your problems. We got a giant spider up here, pal.
That's a good point. And, Gorbag's like, look, I don't want the Nazgûl or the spider, frankly. I'd be happier in a place where there were neither. Maybe things will be easier after the war.
Yeah, this is interesting. We'll talk about this a little bit.
Yeah.
Shagrat actually says, well, hey, they say it's going well. Apparently, hey, the leaders are saying that we're winning the war. Gorbag is skeptical. He's not really having it. And I guess I get that. I mean,
well, sure.
An authoritarian regime says the war is going well. That's not necessarily
that doesn't make it so,
a reliable account.
Our special military operation is going well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dear leader Sauron, winning everything. And he roundhouse kicked Chuck Norris.
Of course he did. That's right. I love what Gorbag does next, though. He suggests a business venture in the post-war future.
I love this.
I do too.
This is great.
He's thinking ahead, which I got to admire. He says, let's head out somewhere with a few boys we can trust. I think we already know there are some issues with, we can't trust all of them. And of course, let's go where there's convenient loot and no bosses.
A few of the trustworthy orcs. Let's find some of the ones we can trust.
We know 300 or 400. We might be able to trust 2.
Right.
But, we're going to go where there's convenient loot and no bosses.
Yeah.
First of all, I would like to go to a place like that. Don't the bosses usually go where there's convenient loot? That's a problem.
This is true. This is absolutely true.
But assuming there is such a place, let's go there. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that these guys don't want to be soldiers. You know, they just want to be like brigands, raiders, you know, which is not to say, it's not like, oh, we don't want to be fighting this war because we're good guys. No, they're totally not good guys.
No, not at all.
They just aren't really bought into the whole Operation Conquer Middle-earth thing.
No, they want to profit. They want this to be, a freelance opportunity.
We just want to be like pirates or raiders or something. Just, go get some loot.
Maybe we should have them talk like pirates, eh?
Maybe so.
Something nearly slipped, you say.
Like old times, matey. Like old times.
I say something has slipped. Don't believe in evil curses, says you.
Actually, we should not. We absolutely should not. I know. We don't see a lot of orc pirates, do we?
Property warned ye be, says I.
Anyway, yeah.
Oh, man.
Pirate orcs. I do actually like the idea, but no, we're not going to do that on the show.
No, we're not. So Shagrat says, yeah, that would be like old times, right? It would be great to have that, just like old times.
What old times are these? When were orcs running around, setting up shop, and just being general brigands?
I mean, I've thought about this, and maybe it's before Sauron and the Nazgûl came back to Mordor.
Okay.
Because for a while there, they were kind of, divided, scattered, leaderless, as Elrond would say.
Orcs a week.
Orcs a week. But I think for a while they did have like no big boss giving them orders. I think
that's a good point.
Sauron came in and he was like, hey guys, I'm going to put you guys to work. You guys are going to have a mission. It's going to be great. You're going to believe in something. And they're like, yeah. And they're like, oh, wait, no, we have to follow orders. So yeah. I think that's what it is. It's when Sauron was still in hiding, maybe when he was in Dol Guldur or some other time before that. Because as we're going to see later, these guys could actually be pretty old. We don't know for sure, but
I know we are going to talk about that for sure. Interesting though. I do love the idea, but boy, it opens up a whole lot of questions, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And even Gorbag knows that like this is not going to happen, even though it was his own suggestion.
It's just a pipe dream. I know I threw it out there, but don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, this is like Andy Dufresne and Red, just like dreaming about escaping from prison and going hanging out on the beach together.
Well, then he whispers about the big bosses making mistakes, and he even says the biggest. Now, I'm assuming he's not talking about the Witch King here. I think he's talking about Sauron himself.
I think that would be the biggest. Yeah,
I do too.
And I have to wonder what the workplace discipline is for orcs caught criticizing the CEO of the company.
3-day suspension, write-up on their permanent record? I don't know, forfeiture of sick pay maybe, or termination with cause. Hours of torture and dismemberment? It's all on the table.
Skinning the body off you, leaving you cold and dark on the other side.
Yep. All on the table, man.
Yeah. They have a disciplinary policy that says, discipline will be applied up to and including stripping the body off of you and leaving you cold and dark on the other side.
That's right. You know what the chain of command is? It's the chain I go and beat you with.
When you don't follow my commands.
That's right. The beatings will continue until morale improves.
That's right.
All right.
That's right. But then, Gorbag says that there really has been a mistake of some sort. He says, you say something nearly slipped. I say something has slipped.
Yeah, I think there's some good evidence for that.
Uh-huh. But it's our job to put things right without any thanks.
I know. The poor Uruks.
I know. Poor guys.
I feel so bad. They should just unionize. But the whole idea of the poor Uruks.
That is a terrifying thought.
It really is, isn't it? I don't want to be the union boss.
I don't want to have to break through a line of striking orcs.
Oh my goodness, I really don't.
Man.
So he does say the poor Uruks, but that's just a reminder, these, at least Shagrat and Gorbag, I don't know about the guys that they're in charge of, but these two, it's just a reminder, these aren't the regular breed of orcs. These are the improved Uruks. These are the black orcs of great strength that first appeared in Third Age 2475. That's when they conquered Ithilien. They're the ones who eventually destroyed Osgiliath. They are larger, faster, stronger, and smarter than the ordinary orcs, and also more able to cope with sunlight.
Yeah, that's right. And somebody's probably going to say, well, linguistically, Uruk is just the black speech word for orc, which
is true. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And in fact, it is most likely related to the Sindarin word orc.
Mm-hmm.
But according to Appendix F, Tolkien tells us that the word Uruk was now applied as a rule only to the great soldier orcs that at this time issued from Mordor and Isengard.
That's right.
So there you go.
Exactly. And it's also worth noting that this does not mean they're the same thing as Saruman's Uruk-hai, which didn't appear until the War of the Ring.
Right. So back to the text, Gorbag then reminds Shagrat that if the enemy win, if men and elves win, the orcs are done for.
Oh, yeah. It's not going to turn out well for them. No.
I mean, I don't imagine that men and elves are going to exterminate all the orcs. I don't think that's going to happen. But I suppose things certainly aren't going to be as carefree and brigandy as they would like.
And brigandy, yeah. We're not going to just let you go set up shop somewhere where there's plenty of loot and no big bosses. That's for sure.
Right.
Before we get back to the discussion, we want to make sure you know that when you finish listening to this episode, the talk continues all night long at the Prancing Pony Podcast.
That's right. Our wonderful listener community keeps the conversation going in all of our social media spaces, from our common room on Facebook to our Reddit community, Twitter, and more.
Now, on Facebook, just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast and be sure to follow the page, but also join the group for some great discussions.
And you can find us on Reddit at r/PrancingPonyPod. And we're also at Prancing Pony Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
And don't forget to check out our new podcast, The Rings of Power Wrap-Up, where we discuss, analyze, and speculate all about Amazon's television adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth. You already heard a bit from tomorrow's episode.
That's right. And on that show, we're going to be taking deep dives into the lore behind the show. We're going to be talking about our favorite themes and characters and a whole lot more. So look for the Rings of Power wrap-up and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And check out our social media at Rings Wrap Up for more.
Now, one last thing before we get back to the discussion. We've had a few folks from the Tolkien Collector's Guide on the show this season during our Kingly Gifts intro segment.
That's right. We had Jeremy Edmonds on in episode 224. Andrew Ferguson joined us in 231, and Chad High joined us in episode 250.
Mm-hmm.
But we also want to encourage you to check out their YouTube channel. Just search Tolkien Collector's Guide on YouTube to find them.
Now, in particular, you're going to want to look for their recent review of The Great Tales Never End, Essays in Memory of Christopher Tolkien. Now, the book released on June 24th in the UK. It's going to be out September 2nd here in the States, a couple of weeks before next season starts.
And we will talk about the book when our next season starts, of course, but
oh yeah,
you're definitely going to want to go check out the guys' take on it over at the Tolkien Collector's Guide, and we'll include a link to that in our show notes.
Absolutely. Now, we are going to get back to the text, but before we do, I think you and I had landed on the idea that elves and men were probably not going to wipe out the orcs. I'm not so sure, because what are they going to do? Just leave orc settlements around? And I think they're going to have to be like, hey, these guys were creations of Morgoth.
I don't see the elves committing genocide.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Maybe men, but...
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, this is the same group of people that wouldn't even keep Gollum in jail. They would take him out to the trees and let him climb and play.
But, okay, let's acknowledge that it's not going to be the elves who are in power anymore. It's going to be men.
It's going to be men, and men
might men ruled
well.
by Aragorn, though. And
True.
I just don't see him wiping out the orcs.
No, I think what we'd end up seeing is a world where orcs were allowed to go and live on their own, but the minute they stepped out of their preordained realm, let's say, they would be open game, so to speak. Like,
that may be.
Stay here, but if we catch any of you outside of this area, we will kill you.
Stay in the scary goblin forest.
That's right.
But don't leave it. Yeah. And that's not what the orcs want either, obviously. They want
to set up shop where there's lots of loot and no big bosses.
Right. So they're still not going to get what they want. It's still game over for them. But
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think you're right. The elves are going to have a real hard time committing genocide. I don't think the men will.
No.
After Aragorn, right? I mean, Aragorn's not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, Aragorn will tell them not to do it, but,
Movie Aragorn would have wiped him out because he's also okay with chopping off the head of an emissary, but that's another story.
Yeah, a really ugly emissary, but...
Well, yeah.
No, I'm not defending it.
I don't know that justifies the beheading, but...
No, it absolutely doesn't.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Absolutely does not justify it, and that's one of the things that bugs me most about that scene.
I know, me too. But let's go ahead and come back to the text. So I'm going to have you pick up just a little bit later in that paragraph, right? Gorbag's going to start asking Shagrat a question, huh?
Yes.
But see here, when were you ordered out? About an hour ago, just before you saw us. A message came. Nazgûl uneasy. Spies feared on stairs. Double vigilance. Patrol to head of stairs. I came at once. Bad business, said Gorbag. See here. Our silent watchers were uneasy more than 2 days ago. That I know. But my patrol wasn't ordered out for another day, nor any message sent to Lugburs either, owing to the great signal going up, and the High Nazgûl going off to the war and all that. And then they couldn't get Lugburs to pay attention for a good while, I'm told. The Eye was busy elsewhere, I suppose, said Shagrat. Big things going on away west, they say. I dare say, growled Gorbag. But in the meantime, enemies have got up the stairs. And what were you up to? You're supposed to keep watch, aren't you? Special orders or no. What are you for? That's enough. Don't try and teach me my job. We were awake, all right. We knew there were funny things going on. Very funny. Yes, very funny. Lights and shouting and all. But Sheila was on the go. My lad saw her in her sneak. Her sneak? What's that? You must have seen him. Little thin black fellow, like a spider himself, or perhaps more like a starved frog. He's been here before. Came out of Lugburs the first time years ago, and we had word from high up to let him pass. He's been up the stairs once or twice since then, but we've left him alone. Seems to have some understanding with her ladyship.
All right, her ladyship indeed. Well, let's go back to the beginning of that passage. Gorbag moves on from his big post-war plans And he asks Shagrat when he was ordered out. Shagrat tells him it was about an hour ago that a message came.
That's right. And the message was that the Nazgûl fear there may be spies on the stairs. So patrol to the top of the stairs with vigilance.
As opposed to casual observance.
As opposed to just kind of like,
just take a glance out there.
Lazily patrolling, like, I don't know. Gorbag points out that the silent watchers at Minas Morgul were also uneasy, and this was more than 2 days ago.
That's right. Now, remember, it's now late on March 13th, so more than 2 days ago, as he says, would be either March 10th or very, very early on March 11th. This fits with the timeline because we know that Frodo and Sam reached Minas Morgul and began their climb up the stairs on March 10th. So yeah, the silent watchers would have been uneasy.
That's right. But Gorbag and his crew weren't ordered out until the next day, which was March 11th.
That's right.
And this delay, we're told, was caused by the start of the war. Remember, that was the great signal. That was the Witch King leading his army out of Minas Morgul. We saw that a few episodes ago.
That's right. And also because of the start of the war, there wasn't a message sent to Barad-dûr.
Mm-hmm.
And then once a message was sent, again, they were busy. It was a while before they got a response.
Right. And I know I just mentioned this, but I guess I just want to be really clear. The great signal, of course, think back a few episodes. This was that great red flash that Frodo and Sam saw while the rock was quivering and trembling beneath them.
What a moment that was.
And then Minas Morgul answered with lightning, and then there was the horrifying sound of the Nazgûl screams.
Oh, that was so intense.
A wonderful moment.
It really was. But can we talk about how fortunate Frodo and Sam were in this regard in terms of the timing? I think we should.
Sure. I mean, okay, so if Minas Morgul had been able to get a message to Barad-dûr back when the Watchers were uneasy a few episodes ago.
Right, March 10th, yeah.
And if Barad-dûr had actually had a chance to do anything about it, well, Shagrat and his patrol would have actually been at the top of the stairs at the exit of Shelob's lair the moment Frodo and Sam got out.
Well, that would have been bad.
That would have been quite bad indeed.
I guess we'll just go back in and deal with the spider.
It's like, there's a whole company of orcs here.
I say, by the way, when I say we'll just go back in and deal with the spider, I mean the evil thing in spider form. But Frodo and Sam don't necessarily know that. They just think it's a giant spider. So do the orcs.
The evil thing that is a living embodiment of evil.
Exactly.
Giant, terrifying thing.
Exactly. But here's the thing. We talk about them being lucky, but this isn't just luck, is it? I mean, what's been happening elsewhere during this time? I know we usually do Meanwhile Elsewhere in Middle-earth as an intro segment, but we're kind of going to do one here. Let's look forward a bit in order to look back. So in a couple of chapters' time from now, and granted, that may not be for 4 or 5 months in PPP time, in The Passing of the Great Company, Aragorn says he's used the Stone of Orthanc, and he adds, "To know that I lived and walked the earth was a blow to Sauron's heart, I deem, for he knew it not till now. The eyes in Orthanc did not see through the armor of Theoden, but Sauron has not forgotten Isildur and the sword of Elendil. Now in the very hour of his great designs, the heir of Isildur and the sword are revealed, for I showed the blade reforged to him. He is not so mighty yet that he is above fear. Nay, doubt ever gnaws him. But he wields great dominion nonetheless, said Gimli, and now he will strike more swiftly. The hasty stroke goes oft astray, said Aragorn. We must press our enemy and no longer wait upon him for the move.
That's right.
Oh, I can't wait to get there. I'm so excited for next season, man.
It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be here before we know it, dude,
well.
honestly. Now, in Scheme, we read that on March 6th, Sauron sees Aragorn and sword in the stone. Imagining Sauron watching the Disney movie of young King Arthur.
He sees Aragorn and watches Sword in the Stone with him.
Yeah, right.
No, that's not going to work.
Why is Merlin so goofy? Come on.
In the stone,
weird.
Sauron sees Aragorn and the sword. Yes.
Anyway. And is disturbed in plans.
Of course he is. You would be disturbed in plans too if you watched Sword in the Stone with Aragorn. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's get back to the text or Scheme. Sorry.
Back to Scheme. Decides eventually on immediate war, draws off forces from north, and aims all thrust at Minas Tirith. Aragorn's revelation to Sauron of himself and Elendil's sword reforged actually causes Sauron to move prematurely.
That's right.
Sauron's early moving means that he's distracted just long enough and at exactly the right time to allow Frodo and Sam to make it into Mordor.
Yeah. Well,
kind of.
Yeah. Exactly, most of the way, right.
After all, Frodo's unconscious and in the hands of the orcs, while Sam is desperately trying to figure out how to go back the other way to get to him.
Exactly.
But it's better that than the alternative. And like we talked about recently, if the orcs hadn't pilfered Frodo's mithril coat, Sam would never have been able to successfully recover him.
That's right.
So it's all just a great big pile of spabimmy, folks.
That's right. This is spabimmy. This is a big old bowl full of spabimi. Yeah.
That's right.
You know what? We should probably explain spabimi. There's always a chance that somebody's listening for the very first time. Spabimi is our shorthand for shall prove but mine instrument. It goes all the way back to the Ainulindale, which is the very first prologue, if you will, to the Silmarillion. And it is our shorthand way of talking about Iluvatar's plan and how he makes it happen even when things go sideways or totally wrong.
That's right.
All right, so getting back to the text, Shagrat figures, rightly enough, that Barad-dûr's delay was because the eye was busy on things to the west, and it certainly was, because things are happening, okay? As we speak, the attack on Minas Tirith is happening right now. The Pelennor is overrun, and very soon the city of Minas Tirith will be besieged.
That's right. And while Gorbag agrees with that, he actually tries shifting the blame to Shagrat.
Of course he does.
You know, after all, look, enemies made it up the stairs, and isn't that your patrol? Aren't you the one who's supposed to be keeping watch on all that stuff?
You'd kind of think so, yeah.
You'd think. Shagrat, of course, is having none of it. He's like, yeah, look, we knew. Come on. We knew. Don't tell me how to do my job, man. We knew there were funny things going on. There's some lights. There's some shouting. But we just thought it was related to Shelob.
That's right.
And he does say that they'd seen Shelob and her sneak.
Her sneak. Well, that's something new to Gorbag. And, of course, he asks the same question you and I would ask. What's Shelob's sneak? Well, so he gets the answer. It's like a spider or maybe more like a starved frog. And I've got to tell you, where's Anborn when you need him? Because if he was there, I think you'd tell him it's more like a large black squirrel, boss.
I'm sorry, boss. I thought it was a squirrel. I'm starting to think that like Gollum is basically just like, he's a Vorlon. He just looks
He's a Vorlon. He just appears to everybody the way he wants to appear to them.
Exactly. And I saw a squirrel. What did you see, Shagrat?
Who are you, precious?
Yeah.
It's too late for the pebbles to vote, precious.
Gollum walking around in Kosh's encounter suit so that
oh my goodness,
he's not recognized by everybody.
It's way too big for him, but yeah,
totally.
Oh man, I love the idea of Gollum as Kosh. I don't know why. That's just hilarious. Oh man, I missed that show. All right.
Anyway, yeah, this is interesting. And Shagrat tells Gorbag that this sneak, her sneak, I do so love because we know how Gollum feels about Shelob.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's hers.
He belongs to her. He worships her.
Shagrat reminds Gorbag that the sneak actually came out of Barad-dûr once before.
Yeah.
And that at that time they had orders to let him pass.
That's right. Remember, Gollum believed he'd escaped, right? He'd been allowed to escape, though. And if we go back to the Black Gate is closed, we read this. Frodo asked, "And did you escape out of the darkness, Smeagol? Were you not rather permitted to depart upon an errand? That at least is what Aragorn thought, who found you by the dead marshes some years ago."
"It's a lie,"
hissed Gollum, and an evil light came into his eyes at the naming of Aragorn.
"He lied on me, yes he did. I did escape, all by my poor self."
And then later we read, Frodo felt a strange certainty that in this matter, Gollum was for once not so far from the truth as might be suspected, that he had somehow found a way out of Mordor, and at least believed that it was by his own cunning.
Right.
There you go.
Yep. And apparently Gollum's been up the stairs previously, right? Once or twice. Yeah. And he has some sort of understanding with Shelob.
Shelob and I have an understanding.
Oh man, that's just wrong.
That's just creepy.
That's creepy as can be.
Gollum, what, who's this person you're out with? It's like, no.
We have an understanding. It's okay. We're seeing other monsters. It's an open theistic relationship. I can worship other people. I can worship others.
Man, this is going so wrong.
It is horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
But they do have an understanding.
They do have an open relationship of some kind.
That's right.
She'll be waiting for him at home, I guess.
Oh, man.
Shagrat calls Shelob her ladyship.
Isn't that interesting?
Which is interesting. I mean,
it really is.
I guess she's all you'd ever want. She's the kind you'd like to flaunt and take to dinner. So she's a lady.
Wow.
Whoa, she's a lady.
She is a lady. Wow. Oh, man, Sean, this episode is going to scar me for a long time.
That's what I'm here for.
That's right. It's a good thing we're ending the season soon.
Right. So, yeah, we get this bit about Gollum not being good to eat, right?
Yeah.
Shelob wouldn't not eat him because of orders from Sauron.
That's a very good point. I'm pretty sure she knows what to do with Sauron's orders.
Right, exactly. She wouldn't worry about words from high up.
No.
But obviously there's just no meat on those bones. And that's why she let him through.
No meat on those bones. That's true. You could marinate Gollum all day and season him with everything you got in your pantry, and it's still not going to be worth the effort.
No,
I agree.
But I'm going to go ahead and let you pick up right after that and take us to the next passage.
All right.
I thought a sneak had brought her a toy, or that you'd perhaps send her a present, a prisoner of war or something. I don't interfere when she's playing. Nothing gets by Sheila when she's on the hunt.
Nothing, say you? Didn't you use your eyes back there? I tell you, I'm not easy in my mind. Whatever came up the stairs did get by. It cut her web and got clean out of the hole. That's something to think about.
Oh, well, but she got him in the end, didn't she?
Got him? Got who? This little fellow? But if he was the only one, then she'd have had him off to a larder long before, and there he'd be now. And if Lugberts wanted him, you'd have to go and get him. Nice for you. There was more than one.
At this point, Sam began to listen more attentively and pressed his ear against the stone.
Who cut the cord she'd put round him, Shagrat? Same one as cut the web. Didn't you see that? And who stuck a pin into her ladyship? Same one, I reckon. And where is he? Where is he, Shagrat?
Shagrat made no reply.
You may well put your thinking cap on if you've got one. It's no laughing matter. No one has ever stuck a pin in Sheila before, as you should know well enough. There's no grief in that, but think, there's someone loose hereabouts as is more dangerous than any other damned rebel that ever walked since the bad old times, since the Great Siege. Something has slipped.
And what is it then?
Growled Shagrat.
By all the signs, Captain Shagrat, I'd say there's a large warrior loose. Elf, most likely. With an elf sword, anyway, and an axe as well, maybe. And he's loose in your bounds, too, and you've never spotted him. Very funny indeed.
Gorbag spat. Sam smiled grimly at this description of himself. As would I, let's just be honest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Large warrior elf.
Oh, you have no idea.
That's right.
All right. So, going back to the beginning of the passage you started at, we get Shagrat's excuse as to why he didn't keep a good enough watch, right?
Why he didn't do his job. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I thought, the boys had come back. They said that Sheila was having some fun. I was just, whatever, that seemed good enough for me. I just thought her sneak had brought her a toy, or that maybe, maybe you, Gorbag. I thought maybe you sent her a prisoner.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably something he's done.
Trying to pull Gorbag under this bus with him.
Right, exactly. That's right. And Shagrat's like, look, man, whatever it was, whether the sneak brought her a toy, whether she found a toy on her own or ordered something on Amazon, or whether you brought her a prisoner, we didn't interfere with her because nothing gets by her when she's hunting. Now, Gorbag is once again being very clear. This is not something nearly slipped, right? I mean, what do you mean nothing? Clearly, something got by Shelob, right?
Right. Something cut the web. Something escaped having cut the web.
As it does, yeah.
Shagrat just completely dismisses this as like, well, look, we have a body, so clearly she got him.
That's right. We've got a body, but yeah.
Shagrat.
Oh, Shagrat. Gorbag really is the smarter of the two here, or at least the more observant and maybe conspiratorial, right? He's putting two and two together and coming up with some answers. He begins to think through this, right? If Frodo was the only one, he'd already be hanging up in her pantry. So it was clearly more than one. And this reminds us that we're not just listening to this conversation neutrally. We're listening to it through Sam's ears. So this causes Sam to pay close attention, the narrator tells us.
Right. And then Gorbag gives his evidence for why he believes what he believes. Like,
yeah,
look, who cut the cords on this guy that we have?
Right.
Like, somebody cut the cords, and somebody stabbed Shelob and drove her back into her lair.
And it wasn't this guy, because he's all wrapped up.
And it obviously wasn't this guy, because he's out. So who was it? Shagrat, the Anborn of Orcs, has no answer for this.
The Anborn of Orcs. I love it.
I don't know, Gorbag. What do you think? You tell me what you think. You say what you think, and I'll tell you if I agree.
I thought you'd brought her a squirrel.
So Shagrat's got nothing. No. Gorbag keeps going. Start thinking, Shagrat.
Use this lump 3 feet above your...
Do you think it was a kingfisher, Shagrat?
That's right.
But seriously, no one has ever hurt Shelob before.
Wow. That's a claim. And
yeah.
Here's the thing. That's no great loss, right? I mean, even he's like, yeah, whatever. I don't really care that she's hurt. I'm not going to shed any tears.
Sure.
But it does mean there is somebody around here who is very, very dangerous. And he mentions the Great Siege. Now, Hammond and Skull say, and I totally agree with them, that this is probably not the Siege of Angband in the First Age. This is instead the Siege of Barad-dûr that lasted like 6 or 7 years after the last alliance there at the end of the Second Age. But that's still something that was 3,000 years ago.
Right. So this begs the question whether Gorbag is speaking from personal experience here. Were Shagrat and Gorbag, or at least Gorbag, were they actually alive at the time of the siege?
Oh.
I mean, we do know that the official origin of orcs is that they were elves who were corrupted.
Uh-huh.
Elves are serially longeval, meaning that they are basically immortal unless they're killed. So are orcs too? Do orcs live as long as elves do?
Well, let's take a look, right? If we go to the History of Middle-earth, Volume 10, Morgoth's Ring, we get to Part 5, Myths Transformed. There's a section 10 there. And I'll just tell you the answer is no. We read this. Orcs could be slain and they were subject to disease. But apart from these ills, they died and were not immortal, even according to the manner of the Quendi. Indeed, they appear to have been by nature short-lived compared with the span of men of higher race, such as the Edain. Now, what's that, 300 years? So they live a long time, but not that long. Maybe 100 years, 150.
That does make sense. You would think that the corruption that they have endured to become orcs would take its toll on their serial longevity as well.
Yeah, you'd think.
But interestingly, right after that, Tolkien does say, this last point was not well understood in the elder days.
No.
For Morgoth had many servants, the oldest and most potent of whom were immortal, belonging indeed in their beginning to the Maiar, and these evil spirits, like their master, could take on visible forms. Those whose business it was to direct the orcs often took orcish shapes, though they were greater and more terrible.
Ooh.
Thus it was that the histories speak of great orcs, or orc captains, who were not slain, and who reappeared in battle through years far longer than the span of the lives of men.
Okay, that is seriously creepy. The idea that Maiar, who are directing the orcs, could take on orcish shapes.
Maybe they'd be better leaders. Maybe they'd be better commanders than regular orcs. Maybe they could be trusted a little bit more.
So great orcs or orc captains, and they would reappear over and over and over because they're Maiar. That is seriously disturbing.
Now, I don't think that's what we're dealing with here.
No, I don't think we're dealing with great orcs here in the form of Shagrat and Gorbag. But, I mean, I guess if Gorbag is speaking from experience, that could be an option. But I don't think that's what we're dealing with here.
I don't see any reason to assume he's speaking from experience. It is an interesting question to ask, but there's no reason to believe that. You know, I could say, well, it's the
greatest thing since sliced bread. Was I around when we invented sliced bread? No, I was not.
You know, it's like if a reporter says, I don't know, it's like the biggest catastrophe since, you know, sinking of the Titanic. Well, you don't have to actually have been there to know that was a big catastrophe. But on the other hand, it's not like orcs study history. So I don't know.
No, that's a good point. Would they hear legends and things? Who would they hear it from?
Maybe other orcs. Maybe they're told these things. I mean, who knows? Maybe they're fed propaganda by Sauron to make them hate elves and men. So
that's true.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to believe that they actually were around back then, but it's kind of a creepy thought.
It is a creepy thought. And the idea that even some orcs could be, well, they wouldn't be orcs. Some Maiar in orc form could be. That's pretty creepy stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to the text. Gorbag concludes once again, it's not an almost slipped. Something has slipped. This is the third time he's made this point.
Right. So finally, Shagrat just says, all right, well, what do you think it was?
Right.
And Gorbag, who again is the smarter one, thinks it's a large warrior, probably an elf.
That's right, probably an elf.
Because as we'll see, if there's something they hate, they're going to assume it's an elf.
Well, right. But I think he's also drawing on the fact that there's an elf sword involved. And maybe he's presuming that's the only way that Shelob could ever have been hurt. I don't Or maybe that's the only way the webs could get cut. I don't know, but he certainly draws the conclusion there's an elf sword involved, and he's definitely right there. He also suggests there's an axe. I don't know.
Why do you think he assumes there's an axe? I mean,
I don't know.
Maybe because they managed to cut through the webs, or they cut through some of the webs that were blocking some of the passages.
Yeah. Not the webs around Frodo. That would be an indelicate way of getting rid of those. No, maybe chopping the ones blocking the tunnel exit.
Maybe. It seems like a bit of a leap, though.
It does. But then you get Sam's response. I love this. He smiled grimly.
Of course.
The idea that he's a large elf warrior with a sword and an axe.
That's a funny thought. You're like, yeah.
It is.
I did that.
Yeah, I can see him now, sort of a little bit of a, that's right, man. That's right. Well, I'm going to have you pick up shortly after that, just actually about halfway into the next paragraph.
All right.
We've got some good news for Sam here. Well, good news, bad news, I guess.
Yeah. And some really creepy stuff for everybody else.
Oh, very creepy stuff.
All right, we're picking up with Shagrat again here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, I've got watchers at every point, and I'm going to deal with one thing at a time. When I've had a look at the fellow we have caught, then I'll begin to worry about something else. It's my guess you won't find much in that little fellow, said Gorbag. He may have had nothing to do with the real mischief. The big fellow with the sharp sword doesn't seem to have thought him worth much anyhow. Just left him lying. Regular elvish trick. We'll see. Come on now, we've talked enough. Let's go and have a look at the prisoner. What are you going to do with him? Don't forget, I spotted him first. If there's any game, me and my lads must be in it. Now, growled Shagrat. I have my orders, and it's more than my belly's worth, or yours, to break 'em. Any trespasser found by the guard is to be held at the tower. Prisoners to be stripped. Full description of every article, garment, weapon, letter, ring, or trinket is to be sent to Lugbors at once, and to Lugbors only. And the prisoner is to be kept safe and intact under pain of death for every member of the guard until he sends or comes himself. That's plain enough, and that's what I'm going to do. Stripped, eh? Said Gorbag. What? Teeth, nails, hair, and all? No, none of that. He's for Lugbors, I tell you. He's wanted safe and whole. You'll find that difficult, laughed Gorbag. He's nothing but carrion now. What Lugbors will do with such stuff, I can't guess. He might as well go in the pot. You fool, snarled Shagrat. You've been talking very clever, but there's a lot you don't know, though most other folk do. You'll be for the pot or for Shelob if you don't take care. Carrion, is that all you know of her ladyship? When she binds with cords, she's after meat. She doesn't eat dead meat, nor suck cold blood. This fellow isn't dead.
Dun bum
dun dun dun.
All right. I love this. This is such a great moment in the book, and we're going to really take our time to discuss this section.
Oh, yeah.
So let's get back to the beginning there. Shagrat is simply not buying what Gorbag is selling. You're just a pessimist. You're always believing the worst, total conspiracy theorist. There are plenty of explanations for all the things you've mentioned as proof. Yeah.
And besides, I've got people watching everywhere.
Everywhere.
In the meantime, I'm going to deal with the thing that I've got in front of me. Let's deal with this thing. Then we'll worry about something else later.
Exactly. One thing at a time.
Gorbag doesn't think that they're going to find much of value in Frodo. Because, after all, he was left behind.
Right. Exactly.
Whoever this great warrior was, forget this guy.
I know. Forget this guy. I mean, that's the point, right? The elf warrior didn't think he was worth much. Regular elvish trick.
Ouch. Let's talk about this, right?
I really want to talk about that because that really suggests, it flat out demonstrates that there's a standard of behavior that orcs expect.
There is some sort of moral code among the orcs. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
They look down their noses at elves for doing this kind of thing, at least according to what they believe. Yeah,
absolutely.
That implies they have some kind of morality. So let's talk a little bit about orc morality, shall we?
I think we should. In Roots and Branches, a collection of essays from Tom Shippey, which I highly recommend, and we should have that on our Amazon list. I believe we do. There is an amazing essay called Orcs, Wraiths, Wights, Tolkien's images of evil. Now, we've gone to this before, not surprisingly, when we talked about wraiths and when we talked about wights. It's one I remember well, and I frankly knew we'd be coming back to it for this particular moment.
Now, of this line in particular, Shippey writes, "There is no mistaking the disapproval in Gorbag's last 3 words." Regular elvish trick.
Right.
Like the other characters in The Lord of the Rings, not all of them on the side of Sauron, elvish to him is pejorative. It is clear that he regards abandoning one's comrades as contemptible, and also characteristic of the other side. And yet, only a page later, it is exactly what characterizes his own side.
Exactly.
And then Shippey goes on to describe the moment that we're going to get to in just a bit here about poor little Uthak.
Oh, poor Uthak. Poor Uthak. In fact, Shippey says in that essay with just a little bit of his trademark snark, and it's brilliant. It's impossible not to hear this in his voice, but I'm not going to try it in his voice. Regular orcish trick, one might say, to abandon one's comrade to a particularly horrible and fully conscious death, and furthermore to laugh about it and expect the laughter to be shared.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
Definitely orcish. But later he concludes that what this little bit of text reveals is that, and I'm quoting here, orcs are moral beings with an underlying morality much the same as ours. But if that is true, it seems that an underlying morality has no effect at all on actual behavior. How then is an essentially correct theory of good and evil corrupted? It's kind of going back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, but orcs having some idea of the way things actually are, right? Understanding the afterlife. How is an essentially correct theory of good and evil corrupted? If one starts from a sound moral basis, how can things go so disastrously wrong? It should require no demonstration to show that this is one of the vital questions raised with particular force during the 20th century, in which the worst atrocities have often been committed by the most civilized people. Tolkien deserves credit for noting the problem and refusing to turn his back on it, as so many of his more canonical literary contemporaries did.
That is good stuff, Dr. Shippey. Man, love this. Now, he goes on to get into a really, really long discussion, one I highly recommend you read. He references C.S. Lewis, and he gets into this talk on dualism or Manichaeanism, and that's a philosophy that stands in contrast to what we typically see throughout or nearly throughout the Legendarium, and that's with the exception that we mentioned recently of both Shelob and Ungoliant. Right. This philosophy that we normally see, the one that's the opposite end of dualism, is this Augustinian belief that evil is a corruption or twisting of good. Now, like I said, it is really great discussion. We recommend you read the essay for more. In that case, Lewis's argument boils down to the idea that, quote, people don't like badness for its own sake, but for what it may give them. Power, money, gratification, etc. These are in themselves good things. And that's the end of Lewis's quote. For Lewis, then, and for Tolkien, as Shippey suggests, evil is the pursuit of some good in the wrong way. It's not just evil for evil's sake. They're trying to pursue something. And sure, it may be power, but power can be a good thing. And it's not something that is always and completely inherently evil.
It's like they're going after something that an otherwise decent person might go after. Power, money, whatever. I mean, there are ways to go after these things. But to
the wrong extent and with the wrong methods and in the wrong... Right.
And this fits with the orcs. I mean, they clearly pursue what they view as good.
Yeah.
They just do it in like the very, very wrong way. I think it also fits with Sauron in a way. You know, Tolkien writes in Morgoth's Ring that Sauron had never reached the stage of nihilistic madness that Melkor did. He did not object to the existence of the world so long as he could do what he liked with it. He still had the relics of positive purposes that descended from the good of the nature in which he began. It had been his virtue, and therefore also the cause of his fall and of his relapse, that he loved order and coordination, and disliked all confusion and wasteful friction. Those are good things, right? Order, coordination.
Those are good things. I mean, I love order and coordination. Yeah. I really don't like confusion or wasteful friction.
And I don't like wasteful friction. Absolutely.
Sauron's just about efficiency. That's all he is.
That's right.
Well, and that in turn reminds me of the temptation that Gandalf feared from the ring, right? Going all the way back to the shadow of the past. The way of the ring to my heart is by pity for weakness, and the desire of strength to do good. And of course, remember Tolkien's own commentary on that from letter number 246. Gandalf as Ring Lord would have been far worse than Sauron. He would have remained righteous, but self-righteous. He would have continued to rule and order things for good, and the benefit of his subjects according to his wisdom, which was and would have remained great.
Right. So, yeah, that does go back to what Shippey says. Evil is the pursuit of some good in the wrong way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Shippey next goes on to reference 6 different orc conversations in The Lord of the Rings.
I wish we could reference all of them.
I know, it'd be amazing. I think this sidebar is already going a little long.
I think so, yeah.
He mentions these 6 different conversations and concludes with this. But the point remains, the orcs recognize the idea of goodness, appreciate humor, value loyalty, trust, group cohesion, and the ideal of a higher cause than themselves, and condemn failings from these ideals in others. So, if they know what is right, how does it happen that they persist in wrong? The question becomes more pressing in that orcish behavior is also perfectly clearly human behavior.
Wow. And that is the hard point to swallow, but he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
We're looking at people when we look at orcs.
Absolutely.
And, Shippey says that this conclusion that orcish behavior is clearly human behavior, that could be drawn just from the text of The Lord of the Rings. But he argues that, quote, it is confirmed by Tolkien's very finished essay on the origin of the orcs, to be found in Morgoth's Ring, which Christopher Tolkien sums up as my father's final view of the question, orcs were bred from men.
As we have talked about many times on this show.
That's right.
Now, of course, this brings up the question of whether orcs are then irredeemable.
Exactly. I mean, it's just this one throwaway comment about regular elvish trick. Boom, it just opens up so many cans. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they have morality, the fact that they come from men. I mean, we've talked about, can Melkor corrupt something so much that he changes its nature fundamentally? That's
a big question.
That he now makes these creatures irredeemable. Can orcs be saved?
Yeah. Huge question.
Well, Shippey acknowledges that Tolkien never took up the challenge of finding some way of educating or rehabilitating orcs, though he was aware of it. And though he did spend considerable time on the possibility of rehabilitating Gollum, not to mention Saruman and even Grima Wormtongue. And we've talked quite a bit on the show about the possible rehabilitations of those characters, often speaking of it in terms of repentance or restoration, but it's pretty much the same idea, isn't it?
Well, as Shippey says, Tolkien was certainly aware of this problem. And there are a couple of letters where he acknowledges this, right? First is letter 153, and that was a draft to Peter Hastings. We've gone to this a number of times before. Tolkien writes there, they, and he's speaking of orcs and others made by Morgoth like trolls, would at least be real physical realities in the physical world, however evil they might prove, even mocking the children of God. They would be Morgoth's greatest sins, abuses of his highest privilege, and would be creatures begotten of sin and naturally bad. I nearly wrote irredeemably bad, but that would be going too far. Because by accepting or tolerating their making, necessary to their actual existence, even orcs would become part of the world, which is God's, and ultimately good. That's interesting. I think we've touched on that before. I think we've actually referenced that quote before, but wow, looking at it in light of what we've been talking about. Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, that is kind of an operation of Spibimi, isn't it? It's, even
it is. Yeah.
Something like the orcs that Morgoth can create, Iluvatar is going to make part of his plan.
Mm-hmm.
So that is going to make it ultimately good.
That's how it works. Yeah, absolutely.
Now then, in letter 269 to W.H. Auden, Tolkien writes, with regard to The Lord of the Rings, I cannot claim to be a sufficient theologian to say whether my notion of orcs is heretical or not. I don't feel under any obligation to make my story fit with formalized Christian theology, though I actually intended it to be consonant with Christian thought and belief, which is asserted, and I'll skip ahead a little bit here, where Frodo asserts that the orcs are not evil in origin. We believe that, I suppose, of all human kinds and sorts and breeds, though some appear, both as individuals and groups, to be, by us at any rate, unredeemable.
Wow. I like that explanation, by the way, talking about how it's not supposed to fit with formalized Christian theology, but consonant with Christian thought and belief. That echoes something else that he'd said in that other letter that we hear quoted. And it's just the idea that it can be, it's the letter to Waldman, I believe. I think it's 151, right? Where he says that
it had to be acceptable to someone who believes in the Trinity.
Exactly. Well, Shippey wraps up this whole argument by saying there is in Tolkien's presentation of the orcs a quite deliberate realism. Orcish behavior is human behavior, and their inability to judge their own actions by their own moral criteria is a problem all too sadly familiar.
Yeah, and that's a problem that Tolkien saw as well. In letter number 66 to Christopher, speaking to his son about World War II, and he says, We are attempting to conquer Sauron with the ring, and we shall, it seems, succeed. But the penalty is, as you will know, to breed new Saurons and slowly turn men and elves into orcs. Not that in real life things are as clear-cut as in a story, and we started out with a great many orcs on our side.
Later, in another letter to Christopher, and this is number 78, he says of people that there are no genuine Uruks, that is, folk made bad by the intention of their maker, as Saruman did, and not many who are so corrupted as to be irredeemable. That's an important bit, isn't it? So there are not many who are so corrupted as to be irredeemable. Though I fear it must be admitted that there are human creatures that seem irredeemable short of a special miracle, and there are probably abnormally many of such creatures in Deutschland and Nippon. That's Germany and Japan, because he's talking about World War II. But certainly these unhappy countries have no monopoly. I have met them, or thought so, in England's green and pleasant land.
Now that's interesting. I mean, we have to remember that Tolkien was an Englishman at war with Germany and Japan at the time. So
exactly,
the idea that there were bad people in Germany and Japan was fairly widespread at the time.
Right. But he even says they're also here in our own country, right?
He does. I mean, he says there's more of them there, which is troubling.
That is a little troubling.
But it's just what it is. I mean, they were at war. At least he recognized that there were horrible people in England too.
Yes.
And he recognized that they didn't have a monopoly on it. So I think that's a few steps ahead of many people at the time.
Certainly is. Yeah.
But it is something we have to come to terms with.
I agree. Yeah.
It's very similar to, going back and watching a movie like Top Gun or something and, the assumptions that are made about the Soviets,
That's right.
So it's interesting because this idea that orcs are ultimately just a facet of humanity, right?
Right.
That, there are orcs among people. I'm reminded a little bit of, I don't have the passage in front of me and I'll have to pull it up for the P5 or something, but
sure.
When he talks about how elves are meant to represent the best of humanity.
Orcs seem to be representing the worst, huh?
And here we see orcs are meant to represent the worst of humanity, but they're both meant to be recognizably human. And I think that is really compelling.
It is.
We are meant to see a reflection of ourselves in orcs.
It's hard to accept that we're supposed to see ourselves
in
orcs, but it is true. You're right. Maybe not ourselves individually, but ourselves collectively, right?
Ourselves as people, yeah.
Humanity,
and maybe even our own individual worst tendencies in orcs.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, I can see some of my worst tendencies to be orcish in nature, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I wouldn't mind going and setting up shop where there's easy loot nearby, like we discussed a few times.
And no big bosses, of course.
That's right. It's a really, really interesting discussion, though.
It is. It's a huge discussion, too. And it's one that, we could do an entire Patreon special on just that, right? The nature of orc evil and their redeemability and their immortality and all of those things. But, even this was a really long sidebar, but it is a fascinating topic. And to dig deep into those letters,
and one without any real final answers, because Tolkien
you're right,
couldn't really come up with answers because these are huge questions that we wonder about humanity.
They really are.
Why do people do horrible things? Why do people allow themselves to be so corrupted by, a particular ideology or a particular selfish desire? And can a person be redeemed from that? These are big questions, and
they are huge questions. Yeah.
And I love that Tolkien kind of holds this mirror up to us with the orcs.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Right.
But again, I go back to, all these people who have written articles that are critical of Tolkien saying, the only good orc is a dead orc and all this stuff, and saying it's all very black and white. And, Tolkien wanted, all the orcs dead. And it's just,
and yet they do serve the role of cannon fodder.
They do serve the role of cannon fodder. That's true. But I think when you look deeper, when you see, this rare glimpse into conversation between two non-commissioned orc officers, just hanging out doing their thing.
A couple of sergeants, basically. Yeah.
A couple of sergeants. Yeah. And you see there's a lot of humanity there.
There really is. The worst kind of humanity.
Yeah.
The desire to rob other people.
Sure.
And not have any authority. And
the desire to abuse each other and accuse each other of not doing their jobs and stuff like that. But also the desire to just be free.
Yeah.
The desire to just go and live your own life somewhere. Be your own orc man, orc person, whatever,
But Shagrat, I'd rather sing.
That's what all that stuff is about wanting to go set up shop, right? Like you just want freedom. You don't want to be a soldier in Sauron's army. I just want to I want to be free to go kill people and steal their stuff.
Well, right. But once again, we come back to the whole idea of pursuing a good thing, in this case, freedom and independence. And, the exercise of your own free will, those are good things. They want to use them in the wrong way, and that's the problem. But man, it really does help us see that orcs, they may be immoral, but they're moral. They're not amoral.
They have morality. Yeah.
Right, exactly. There is a moral code.
They recognize morality.
And they criticize what they think is immoral.
Yeah.
Regular Elvish trick. Yeah.
Wow. All of that from those three words.
All of that out of regular Elvish trick.
That's awesome. I love it. That was fantastic. And
we could have just made a cheap trick joke and moved on. Instead, we did a 20-minute sidebar on.
Hey, Gorbag, I want you to want me.
Exactly.
No, we go deep, folks. This is the Prancing Pony Podcast.
We do indeed.
And we are going to move on now. But before we do, we want to give a huge hat tip to our research assistant, Marilyn Arpakila, who helped compile some of the quotes that we used in that sidebar.
Yeah, she really helped make this section a lot more manageable. Otherwise, we might have been here for an hour. So thank you. Back to the text, though. Shagrat wraps up this little chat and suggests that they check out the prisoner, which is an interesting phrase. We don't see Sam take notice of that yet. It's the stuff at the end that this fellow isn't dead that gets his attention. But prisoner might have perked his ear up if he was thinking, it's not, let's check out the corpse.
So. Right, yeah.
But Gorbag calls dibs, right? We saw him first, man. He's mine.
Yeah, but now Shagrat has a little something to say here. He's been kind of like, I don't know, what do you think? But now he knows what he wants to say.
We're on my territory now, right? Yeah.
That's right. I have got orders of what to do with this prisoner, and neither one of us are going to break those orders.
That's right.
And those orders are very clear and very detailed.
Mm-hmm.
The prisoner is to be held at the tower. He's to be stripped with... They gotta write a report.
They gotta write a report. Paperwork. It's an orc report.
Yeah. Oh man, I forgot the cover sheet.
Gotta do all this paperwork.
File it in triplicate.
Right. They want a full description of everything sent to Barad-dûr, including, I don't know, like any garment, any weapon, any letter, I don't know, any ring, just whatever's on the person.
Any trinket that he might happen to have on his person.
That might be round. I don't know. Just whatever he's got. Just tell us about it.
The idea of Frodo stripped, though, it just, at first I was hearing Stripped from Depeche Mode, which, I'm a big Depeche Mode fan, so that song popped in my head. But then somehow I'm seeing Frodo in a pole, and I just want to move right on.
No, we don't need that. See, I was thinking of, after Tom rescues them from the Barrow Downs and they run naked on the grass.
When they were all naked. Yeah.
I went wholesome, but thanks for, ruining that for me.
If I get a choice between wholesome and not wholesome, you know where I'm going to go.
This is true. I do know that about
you. I am sorry, folks. Well, mostly. So, yeah, the orders are to keep him safe and in one piece until Sauron sends for him, or here's the scary part, or comes for him himself.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, I don't think I want to be there when Sauron shows up.
These guys don't like it when the bosses push him around and, the CEO is actually going to come.
The CEO who kills people just by looking at them. Yeah. Note the penalty. Speaking of killing, every member of the guard will be killed. All of you, every last one of you, dead and gone. If you do this wrong.
That's a way to ensure, they'll keep each other honest.
Have you ever thought, boss, about maybe a little positive reinforcement? How about if the orders are followed, we'll give everybody a week's vacation?
No, we will kill them all if they fail.
I like that.
Yeah, orcs are expendable.
They are, that's true, quite.
Since you said penalty, and since the text says pain of death, I just want to remind folks, we actually discussed the phrase pain of death and the relationship between the words pain and penalty back in episode 247.
We did indeed. And that conversation also got slightly less than wholesome, if I remember.
As it tends to do, yeah.
As it tends to do, yeah.
So back to the text. Gorbag wants a few more details on this whole stripped business. Just sounds strange. So does that mean we take his teeth and hair too? Or just like...
No, that is nasty. We take the things that are on him, not the things that are him. We're not going to take his toes off or...
I mean, Gorbag obviously is one of those guys who just collects. He's probably got a necklace of teeth of all the people he's killed.
What do you pop his eyeballs out too? Oh, this is about 8 centimeters across. It's got a green circle. And no.
Probably stuffing his mattress with hair and stuff like that. Come on.
Oh, my goodness. No.
What are you going to do? He's an orc.
Objects, clothing and things, not the parts of him.
Right.
But what's crazy is he asks that question because presumably that is something that has happened before.
I'm sure. I'm fairly certain that Gorbag collects teeth from his enemies that he's killed. Yeah. Absolutely.
It does make me think of that line from the movie, though.
What about his legs? He don't need them.
Yeah. Gorbag is just like laughing at all this care being taken with this body. He's like, he's dead meat, man.
Yeah.
Might as well cook him. Just throw
him in the pot, man. Yeah. Put him in the slow cooker. Let's see if we get some breakfast tomorrow. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Shagrat has the last word here. I mean, at least for a little bit. And he explains Shelob's methods. You may know a lot, Gorbag. You're a pretty smart guy, but you clearly don't know everything, do you?
Not at all. Because when Shelob binds up her prey, that means she's after fresh meat. She doesn't eat dead things. She doesn't drink cold blood.
Oh.
She bound this guy to eat him later. That means that Frodo isn't dead.
What?
And the next sound the orcs heard was Sam's jaw hitting the ground.
Seriously? Or Sam's palm hitting his forehead.
Face palming?
Totally face palming. No, you're kidding me. What?
Yep.
But that is where I'm going to pick up, huh?
Indeed. Go for it.
All right. Sam reeled, clutching at the stone. He felt as if the whole dark world was turning upside down. So great was the shock that he almost swooned. But even as he fought to keep a hold on his senses, deep inside him, he was aware of the comment. You fool, he isn't dead, and your heart knew it. Don't trust your head, Samwise. It is not the best part of you. The trouble with you is that you never really had any hope. Now what is to be done? For the moment, nothing, but to prop himself against the unmoving stone and listen to the vile orc voices.
Gone, said Shagrat. She's got more than one poison. When she's hunting, she just gives them a dab in the neck and they go as limp as bone fish. Then she has a way with them. Do you remember old Uthak? We lost him for days. And we found him in a corner, hanging up he was. But he was wide awake and glaring. How we laughed. She'd forgotten him maybe, but we didn't touch him. No good interfering with her. Nah, this little filth, he'll wake up in a few hours. And beyond feeling a bit sick for a bit, he'll be all right. Would be if Lugberts would let him alone. And of course beyond wondering where he is and what's happened to him.
And what's going to happen to him, laughed Gorbag. We can tell him a few stories at any rate if we can't do anything else. I don't suppose he's ever been in lovely Lugberts, so he may like to know what to expect. This is going to be more funny than I thought. Let's go.
There's going to be no fun, I tell you, said Shagrat. And he's got to be kept safe. We're all as good as dead.
All right, but if I were you, I'd catch the big one that's loose before you send in any report to Lugberts. It won't sound too pretty to say you've caught the kitten and let the cat escape.
All right, so back to the beginning of this passage, end of the passage I just read.
Mm-hmm.
Frodo's not dead. This news throws Sam for a loop.
A huge loop. He's still in the loop. Yeah. He's still upside down.
He's still upside down. That's right. This shocks him nearly to the point of fainting. He reeled.
I mean, just
clutching at the stone. Almost swooned. But holds on to his consciousness just so that he can beat himself up.
Well, wouldn't the old gaffer be proud of that?
Oh, yes. Hang on, Samwise. Before you faint,
before you pass
insult
out,
yourself a bit.
Think about how terrible you are.
That's right.
He isn't dead and your heart knew it. Don't trust your head. It's not the best part of you. This is as clear a reminder as Tolkien can give us that Sam is the emotional heart of the story here.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he follows his heart. And he knows he should follow his heart.
Yep.
Now, his problem, he argues to himself, is that he never really had any hope.
Look, I like hearing that because hope is super important. But how is having any hope going to change this circumstance? Would hope have changed his actions? And if it had, would those changes have been good changes?
I mean, yeah, if he had had hope, would he have stayed by Frodo's side, and would that have gone well? No, of course it wouldn't have.
No.
Because the orcs would have shown up, and yeah, Sam's invisible, but he would have killed a few before they figured out where the slashes were coming from and taken him out.
Numbers alone, because the sword would have made him visible, or at least would have made the sword visible.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. They'd see the sword, wouldn't they? Because the sword's going to glow. So yeah, he takes a few down before they kill him, but I agree. I don't think those changes would have been good changes.
Yeah, that's the thing. He had to do what ended up being done, and if he'd done anything different, it would have all gone wrong.
But it wouldn't be Sam if he didn't doubt himself. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. But it is not a surprise that Sam beats himself up a little bit.
This is very on brand for Sam to beat himself up a little bit. And now he's left wondering what to do.
Yeah. Well.
And there's really nothing else that he can do for now except for just hang out here and keep listening to the orcs.
There is something else he could do, and he finally figures it out, to turn on a light and figure out how to get over this stupid stone. But we'll get there, won't we?
We'll get there in a bit.
All right, so back to the charming Shagrat. He uses the word garn, which I didn't know. It's per the OED. It's a colloquial Cockney pronunciation of go on. So say go on, but kind of slur them together.
Yeah, gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
It's used to express disbelief or ridicule, oh, go on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
But garn, I just never heard it that way. It's great. It's an awesome word.
Pretty cool.
All I can do is think of the Star Trek episode with the lizard dude. The big, strong lizard who hurls the rock at Captain Kirk. That's the Gorn, not the Garn. But it did make me think of that.
It just makes you think of the Gorignac from Galaxy Quest.
Oh, man, the big rock creature?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So then Shagrat continues his discussion of Shelob's hunting techniques. So she's got multiple poisons, and when she's hunting, she uses a paralyzing poison. And then he says, remember poor old Ufthak? He was lost for a few days. We found him hanging in a corner. He was awake, and we laughed at him. Because, it's what we do.
We laughed at him because that's what we do.
Yeah.
That is what we do.
So he had been hit with the paralyzing poison. That's what's at work here.
I'm thinking back to the band Poison, and the last thing I need is multiple versions of that. I don't want multiple poisons.
No, one poison was enough.
It was. So, of course, we mentioned Ufthak in the sidebar on orc morality. I know we also had a sidebar on orc mortality, but this is the morality one, just so you know.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So, Shagrat, of course, look, there is no way. He said this earlier. We're not interfering with her, right? There's no way we're getting in her way. And it was the same thing with Ufthak, right? We left him there. And so he draws this conclusion. Because she used the paralyzing poison, this little filth, that would be Frodo for those of you not paying attention, will wake up and be okay, maybe just a little sick.
Yeah, this little filth. You gotta get a little insult in there. It's not this cute little guy, not even this dunghill rat. No, this little filth.
This little filth. Oh, man.
And by the way, this word he uses before that, probably worth talking about this one too, nar, N-A-R. Yeah. Just a non-standard spelling / pronunciation for no.
Yeah.
Closest thing to compare it to in American English would be like nah, N-A-H.
Yeah, you're right. It's just a lazy way of saying
it's
no.
It's just that nah.
More of a vernacular sort of way. Yeah.
Almost like an N-A-W, like nah.
Nah. That's a good point, yeah. Of course, he'd be okay, right? That's what he says. He'll wake up and be okay, maybe a little sick. Well, he'd be okay if it weren't for, Sauron and Barad-dûr.
Yeah. Yeah, and he'd be, a little confused, like, where am I? What's happening?
And, of course, what's going to happen per Gorbag.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is going to be a lot funnier than I thought, Gorbag says.
That's going to be just a hoot and a holler right there, man.
Boy. These
so much fun.
Again, a little bit of sadism here.
Oh, man, you're not kidding.
Gorbag wants to get going here.
Right.
Let's go. This is going to be great. I can't wait for this show.
He's rubbing his hands. He's like, oh, we're going to have some fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. We're going to tell Frodo all about lovely Lugbors.
Oh, man.
And then Shagrat reminds him, no, there's not going to be any fun here. We can't.
No fun.
We cannot. No fun. No fun, darlings.
There will be no fun here, darlings.
Frodo has to be kept safe or we all die.
That's a good point. We all die.
Do you not get this?
Gorbag, though, takes one final opportunity here to suggest catching the other one before sending in that TPS report. And don't forget the cover sheet. I love the metaphor, though, right? Caught the kitten and let the cat escape. We got another cat reference just a little bit after the last cat reference.
That is true. There's a lot of cat references here.
Yeah.
Well, Tolkien called them the fauna of Mordor, so there you go.
That's right. I mean, there must be a ton of cats around Mordor because they are the fauna of Mordor.
Probably.
And because these orcs know what they are.
Yeah.
I mean, they would not know what a golden retriever is, but they know what a cat is. I'm kidding.
I like the idea of orcs talking about kittens.
It's terrible. Can you imagine? Oh, look at the little guy.
I know.
He's so cute.
Just hearing the word kitten come out of the mouth of an orc is just kind of incongruous, really.
It is very incongruous. Yeah. I don't even want to think about what terrible things they would do to kittens or cats, the orcs. So we're going to leave that be.
No, let's not.
I am, however, going to have you pick up, is it right after that? I believe it is right after that.
And I've got a passage with no orc dialogue here, which is a mercy.
Yeah, I was about to say, you lucked out. You get absolutely no
That's right.
orc dialogue, you lucky man. All right, go for it.
That's right. I'm done with orc dialogue for a few months. The voices began to move away. Sam heard the sound of feet receding. He was recovering from his shock, and now a wild fury was on him. "I got it all wrong," he cried. "I knew I would. Now they've got him, the devils! The filth! Never leave your master, never, never! That was my right rule, and I knew it in my heart. May I be forgiven. Now I've got to get back to him. Somehow. He drew his sword again and beat on the stone with the hilt, but it only gave out a dull sound. The sword, however, blazed so brightly now that he could see dimly in its light. To his surprise, he noticed that the great block was shaped like a heavy door and was less than twice his own height. Above it was a dark blank space between the top and the low arch of the opening. It was probably only meant to be a stop against the intrusion of Shelob, fastened on the inside with some latch or bolt beyond the reach of her cunning. With his remaining strength, Sam leaped and caught the top, scrambled up and dropped. And then he ran madly, sword blazing in hand, round a bend and up a winding tunnel. The news that his master was still alive roused him to a last effort beyond thought of weariness. He could not see anything ahead, for this new passage twisted and turned constantly. But he thought he was catching the two orcs up. Their voices were growing nearer again. Now they seemed quite close.
And indeed, they're almost close. As we'll find out, they're not quite as close as we'd like them to be. Just a few feet closer.
It's the opposite of a mirror on your car.
Exactly.
Objects may be farther than they appear.
Much farther than they appear, or than they sound, yeah. So Sam can hear that they're getting further away. Not just the voices themselves, but the sound of the feet, right? And as he recovers from this shock, the shock of finding out that Frodo's still alive, he is ticked. I mean, he is just really, really angry now.
He is. He cries aloud about getting it wrong, continues to beat himself up. And, remember our conversation, what was it, last episode, the episode before, about how it was wrong, in a sense, for him to abandon the quest and go back to Frodo. Now it turns out that his right rule was actually right.
Yeah.
He really did need to be by his master's side, but if he had been, he would have been captured. So
that's right.
This really played out the only way that it could have played out.
Yes. Any other way, it would have been disastrous. You're right.
Yep. But Sam decides that he absolutely has to get back to Frodo, which at least I can get on board with. Yeah. One way or another, he wants to get back to Frodo.
No matter what. And I think, honestly, at this point, he doesn't even care if he's either also captured or if he dies. I
think you're right. I think at this point, he doesn't even care if the quest fails.
I think he thinks the quest has failed. I mean, there's no way he thinks he can do it on his own now.
And he doesn't want to leave Frodo's side while Frodo's alive.
No.
And he can't imagine that they're ever going to escape.
No, he can't imagine that's possible. I mean, I have some news for you, Sam, but it's pretty crazy. You won't believe it even if I tell you.
Right.
So he draws Sting. He bangs it against the stone. Again, if throwing yourself against the stone doesn't do anything, neither is going to be banging it with the hilt of Sting.
Let's give it a shot anyway.
But it does glow brightly, thanks to the presence of the orcs. This is what I want to talk about here. The sword is glowing, and Sam can see by its light, can't he?
And that's a good thing. He actually gets a little bit of information that he can work with. He sees that the stone is shaped like a door. Maybe we see it's less than twice his own height, so maybe 6-7 feet high.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking. Right, if it's less than twice, so yeah.
And then just above the stone is a gap. And he figures it was probably just designed to stop Shelob from getting in. It's not some elaborate locking mechanism, just something that a giant monster in spider form can't open.
Exactly. It doesn't. We've heard, child-proof containers and child-proof locks for doors. This is just a giant creature in spider form.
Giant spider-proof door, a Shelob-proof door.
Exactly. I have to say, though, wouldn't it be interesting? Sheila makes it through there and she's in the Tower of Cirith eating her way to the top. She would have such a good time in the Tower of Cirith.
She would love it. Yeah.
Oh, man. Just chasing everybody up to the top. I mean,
that would be fun.
It would be a lot of exercise, but then she'd get to the top and there'd be like all the orcs. Like, oh, yeah.
It'd be like a video game, just like you're crawling your way up to the top, eating. It'd be like Sheila Pac-Man, kind of eating as you go.
Leveling up. Yeah. Slay the Spire, actually, is what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
There you go.
So, yeah. So he climbs up, he gets through, and he drops down to the other side.
And he's energized now. He runs at full speed, sword glowing in hand, around the corner, up the tunnel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, because he knows that Frodo is alive, just that knowledge alone is giving him the motivation to fight through this fatigue. Because you remember, we were talking earlier, he was so tired, so fatigued, so worn out, almost to the point of passing out. Now he's got his second wind, probably his third or fourth wind, let's be honest. And it's only because of the knowledge that Frodo is still alive.
Yeah. So he's running. He's got energy now. He's got the stamina to keep going, but he can't see anything because this is a very twisty-turny passage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But he keeps going and he can hear the voices closer now.
That's right. Before we move on, though, I have a question. Sam had the vial with him, right?
Yeah.
The light of the sword sting is what enables him to see that there's a gap in the doorway. Why didn't he use the vial to see? I mean, if you've got a flashlight on you and you're in the dark, do you not think that maybe using the flashlight would be helpful? I mean, I'm not here to criticize Sam's decision to sit there in the dark and listen to them talk about Frodo.
No.
But I'm kind of criticizing Sam's decision to sit around there without thinking about how I could solve this problem. But what would have happened if he had?
Well, I think the second answers the first, because I think that if he had, the light would have been so bright.
Yeah.
That I think the orcs would have spotted it. Even around a corner or something like that, they would have seen that light.
That's true. I mean, like any other flashlight, the people you're looking for are going to see you long before you see them. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I think he probably knew that. He probably knew they were close enough that it wasn't safe to use the vial. That's what I have to think.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. Well, now we are going to go ahead and hand it back over to my co-host for the last reading of the season.
Oh, wow. The last reading of The Two Towers.
End of the book.
All right. That's what I'm going to do, said Shagrat in angry tones. Put him right up in the top chamber.
What for?
Growled Gorbag.
Haven't you any lockups down below?
He's going out of harm's way, I tell you, answered Shagrat. See, he's precious. I don't trust all my lads, and none of yours. Nor you neither when you're mad for fun. He's going where I want him, and where you won't come if you don't keep civil. Up to the top, I say. He'll be safe there.
Will he? Said Sam.
You're forgetting the great big elvish warrior that's loose.
And with that, he raced round the last corner, only to find that by some trick of the tunnel, or of the hearing which the ring gave him, he had misjudged the distance. The two orc figures were still some way ahead. He could see them now, black and squat against a red glare. The passage ran straight at last, up an incline, and at the end, wide open, were great double doors, leading probably to deep chambers far below the high horn of the tower. Already, the orcs with their burden had passed inside. Gorbag and Shagrat were drawing near the gate. Sam heard a burst of hoarse singing, blaring of horns and banging of gongs, a hideous clamor. Gorbag and Shagrat were already on the threshold. Sam yelled and brandished Sting, but his little voice was drowned in the tumult. No one heeded him. The great doors slammed to. Boom. The bars of iron fell into place inside. Clang. The gate was shut. Sam hurled himself against the bolted brazen plates and fell senseless to the ground. He was out in the darkness. Frodo was alive, but taken by the enemy.
Oh, man. All right. Well, there's a lot to discuss at the end there, but first, let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
All right. So these voices that sound awfully close to Sam are still talking.
Mm-hmm.
And Shagrat says that he's going to put Frodo in the top chamber.
And, Gorbag doesn't understand. Why doesn't it keep him down below? What do you mean up? Look, we don't have all day. Let's go have some fun. Let's get him in one of these chambers down here.
Yeah.
Once again, Shagrat is like, look, no, it is all about keeping him safe. He's precious, which I think maybe we should talk about that for a second. But his point is, we're going to keep him safe. I don't trust all my guys, and I don't trust any of yours.
No, I don't. I love that. And I don't even trust you, actually.
Which I love. I don't know.
So he's going where I can control access to him. He'll be safe at the top.
That's right.
But let's go back to that word precious.
I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, right? I mean, we've talked about the word precious.
It's certainly a striking word in this book.
It is a very striking word.
Yeah.
I guess when it's used by somebody not Gollum and not Frodo, or not a ring bearer, because, Isildur used the same word as well. It is precious to me.
Yeah.
So I think maybe when it's not from a ring bearer, it doesn't have quite the same impact. But because of its potency in those contexts, just seeing it at all.
Yeah. It kind of jumped out at me too. That's why I wanted to see what you made of it. I actually did go and do a search, and I did find that the word is used a lot. It's, Gandalf uses it, just, don't waste my precious time, things like that. So it's not like it's some special word that Tolkien only uses in those contexts, but you're right. It is so potent in those contexts that I noticed it too.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about it here is that we wouldn't really use the word precious in this way anymore. No. Like we would say he's valuable.
Right. He's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today, I don't think you'd say he's precious, and I think that's why it kind of stands out.
No, that's one of those words I don't think is in the same use that it used to be. Yeah.
Oh, he's just precious.
Isn't he precious? Yeah, Church Lady on Saturday Night Live does not count. Yeah.
No, not at all.
So then Sam, of course, references himself as the great big elvish warrior. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I should have mentioned this earlier, but, Gorbag keeps talking about, what about the big elvish warrior? What about the big elvish warrior? It made me think of Gimli and the Old Man.
It is like Gimli and the Old Man. Totally.
Yeah, what are you going to do about the elvish warrior?
Gorbag is like, don't forget that elvish warrior. That guy's still out there. And then Sam playing on that for sure.
That is hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. And he comes around the corner, Sam does, expecting to fight them.
Not Gimli and the Old Man. No.
Not Gimli and the Old Man. That would be awfully strange. So he comes around this corner expecting to fight these orcs, and then whoops, they're actually a long way away.
Long way away. Much farther away than we thought.
We're told that he misjudged the distance either because of the ring or because of the nature of the tunnels, some trick of, the echoing of the tunnels, or because of the ring's effect on his hearing.
Right.
He can still see them.
Yeah.
He sees them short and squat in the distance, backlit by this red light.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And this last stretch of the tunnel, the one that he can see them now, right? Because he's not looking around curves or anything along those lines. He doesn't have elvish eyes that can apparently do anything.
Right.
He's looking up a hill, and at the end of this straight uphill path is an open set of double doors, and the orcs carrying Frodo have already made it through. And now Gorbag and Shagrat, they're nearing the gate. This is panic time. This is panic time. Yeah.
Yeah. And the panic is going to increase here because as they approach the threshold, Sam hears singing and horns.
Yeah.
Hideous clamor of orcs inside this chamber.
Oh.
He yells and he waves Sting around, and Sting has got to be glowing pretty brightly at this point because there's a lot of orcs around here.
And they're very close now, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But his yells are drowned out in that hideous clamor, the tumult, the sound of the orcs. Mm-hmm. Frankly, the sound of the orcs being pretty thrilled with themselves for picking up an unconscious guy who's bound up.
We found a guy that somebody else incapacitated for us. And
and secured. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did absolutely nothing other than pick him up, but we're still pretty happy about it.
But aren't we awesome?
We're the greatest. Yeah. Uruks, Team Uruk. The doors get slammed shut, and your heart just falls for Sam at that point. I want to talk, though, a little bit, these two sentences that each contain one automatopoeia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boom and clang.
Mm-hmm.
What is Tolkien accomplishing here by utilizing these words?
I think it's very much like when he uses alliteration, using musical language that kind of evokes the mood of what's going on, particularly when he uses, like sometimes we talked about how he uses sibilants to convey kind of a hissing sound and things like that.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's doing here. I think he's actually using these sounds to bring us right there into the action. We are right there in Sam's head, hearing the boom of the great doors and the clang of the iron bars.
I love the use of those words. I really do. You're right.
They're so wonderful. I love the fact that they're each their own sentence, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
not the great doors slam to with a boom or the bars fill into place with a clang.
No.
He makes these words stand alone, capitalized, period,
Each period is like a punch in the gut, each one.
That's the thing. I think that's part of it. This is finality, right? This is, well, literal closure. I mean, I don't want to use that in the more metaphorical context of the word closure. Yeah. This is literally, the doors are closed.
Yeah.
And it's the end for Sam's particular quest at this moment. Boom, clang, final.
And I think that's it. I think those periods are meant to convey that finality.
Yeah.
This is it. Door closed, full stop. That's it.
Yeah.
And Sam throws himself against the brass plates on the gate. Actually appears to knock himself out.
He absolutely does.
Fell senseless to the ground.
And then was out in the darkness.
And then he was out in the darkness. Yeah. So I'm not misreading that.
No.
That's it. He knocks himself out, banging himself against these gates.
Oh.
And we're reminded by the narrator at the end, Frodo is alive.
Yeah.
But now he's in the hands of the orcs.
Taken by the enemy.
And that's where we're going to leave him.
Yeah, that's a heck of a closure. Talk about a last line or last paragraph of a book. Can you imagine reading this when it first came out and having to wait for the next volume to be released?
Oh, man, I know. I mean, I remember how brutal it was for me when I read it. And I had Return of the King ready to read as soon as I was done. But then, of course, I opened to Return of the King. I was like, wait, no, I'm Minas Tirith. What is this? I don't want this. I want to know what's happening to Frodo. Like, don't give me Gandalf and Pippin. Frodo, where's Frodo?
Where's Frodo? Frodo lives. Yeah.
You have to wait chapters and chapters to find out what happens to Frodo. Or
half the book.
In the case of this podcast, a whole season.
You're going to have to wait for a year from September to find out what happens with Frodo and Sam. Well, I don't know. We'll probably do a Meanwhile Elsewhere in Middle-earth somewhere along the line.
Maybe so.
But just before the great doors slammed to and the bars of iron fell into place inside, I almost thought that I saw the orcs throw something out into the tunnel. I don't think they pulled it off of Frodo. Indeed, it looks like they did. It's our mailbag. Sean, what did Bartleman send us tonight?
All right. Well, we got a couple of really good ones here tonight. First up, Brian S. in Carmel, Indiana sent us this one. He says that his friend asked him why Sam was his favorite character in The Lord of the Rings. Brian explained, "To me, Sam is the hero of the Third Age of Middle-earth. I mentioned that Frodo actually failed at his quest to destroy the ring, but because of Sam's loyalty and Gollum's treachery, the ring was destroyed. I posed to you the same hypothetical question his friend Wills posed to me. Would Sam have been able to cast the ring into the fires of Mount Doom, or would he have failed as well? I thought that was an interesting question to ponder, and kind of a fun one, as it is probably mostly based on opinion." Alan, what do you think?
It is a great question, really, and it is one that I think we can still speculate on, but, well, I have to say the answer is, I think, not actually based on opinion. It's based on Tolkien's own words in his letters.
Yeah, we've got some stuff on this.
Yeah, a lot of stuff, actually. And I'm going to start with letter number 181 to Michael Straight. Now, he was the editor of New Republic. He was preparing a review of The Lord of the Rings when he wrote into Tolkien asking several questions, including one about Frodo's moral failure at the climax. Now, we talked about this before, how Tolkien says that there are situations in which the good of the world depends on the behavior of an individual in circumstances which demand of him suffering and endurance far beyond the normal. He is, in a sense, doomed to failure, doomed to fall to temptation, or be broken by pressure against his will. Now, that's from the letter itself. I don't speak like that. That's Tolkien. Tolkien goes on to explain that Frodo was in such a position, an apparently complete trap. A person of greater native power could probably never have resisted the ring's lure to power so long. A person of less power could not hope to resist it in the final decision. The quest was bound to fail as a piece of world plan, and also was bound to end in disaster as the story of humble Frodo's sanctification. Now, we've talked about this regarding Frodo before, but read carefully, and there are a couple of lines that make it pretty clear that Sam would also have failed. First, we read, "A person of less power could not hope to resist it in the final decision." I think that suggests that Sam would not have been able to endure even as long as Frodo. But for me, it's the point that the quest was bound to fail as a piece of world plan that cements it. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think you're right on so far. And I would add that this is not the only letter that we're hanging our hat on here. In letter number 191, which is a draft of a letter to a Miss J. Byrne, Tolkien says that it was, quote, quite impossible for Frodo to surrender the ring in act or will, especially at its point of maximum power. And later in that letter, Tolkien acknowledges, no, Frodo failed. It is possible that once the ring was destroyed, he had little recollection of the last scene, but one must face the fact. The power of evil in the world is not finally resistible by incarnate creatures, however good, and the writer of the story is not one of us. So, okay, let's piece that out a little bit. Sam is certainly an incarnate creature.
Yeah.
So even if he is more good than Frodo, and I'm not really even sure that he is. I mean, we're told Frodo is kind of the best of hobbits in the Shire, right?
Right.
Even if he were more good than Frodo, this evil, the temptation of the ring, is not meant to be resistible. That's Tolkien's intention, is that anyone would not have been able to resist it. Anyone would have failed at the point Frodo did.
Yeah, absolutely. In the very next letter, which was number 192, he says, "It is possible for the good, even the saintly, to be subjected to a power of evil which is too great for them to overcome in themselves. In this case, the cause, not the hero, was triumphant, because by the exercise of pity, mercy, and forgiveness of injury, a situation was produced in which all was redressed and disaster averted." End quote. Now, later he expands on this, saying that Frodo deserved all the honor that he got. After all, as Tolkien adds, few others, possibly no others of his time, would have got so far. The other power then took over the writer of the story, by which I do not mean myself, that one ever-present person who is never absent and never named. I love that quote. Man, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, not only do we get the idea that we're trying to talk about the fact that nobody else would have even gotten this far, I love that idea about the writer of the story in capital letters. That's great stuff.
Well, and finally, there's a letter that we've gone to several times before, which is letter number 246. This is actually a series of drafts in reply to Eileen Elgar. And in this letter, Tolkien restates some of his arguments from letter 181 to Michael Straight, that Frodo's failure was not a moral failure, and that at the last moment, the pressure of the ring would reach its maximum. Impossible, I should have said, for anyone to resist, certainly after long possession, months of increasing torment, and when starved and exhausted. Impossible for anyone to resist.
Yep.
I think that answers the question.
I think it does.
Now, okay, let's play a little what if here. If Tolkien hadn't definitively said that it was impossible for anyone to resist.
There we go. Now we get to speculate. Let's have some fun.
Let's speculate a little bit. Or if we want to play in this, this space of after long possession, months of increasing torment, which Sam didn't experience as acutely as Frodo did.
That's true, right.
Let's play in this gray area a little bit.
Okay.
Is there a way in which Sam could have resisted? I don't know. I mean, we have to consider the fact that Tolkien wrote the story assuming that it was impossible for anyone to resist the ring. So
that's true. Right. That's his purpose of writing it that way.
That is his purpose of writing it. It's not just something he said in a letter. So let's ignore the fact that he said it in a letter, but still he's writing the story with this in mind. And so we would have to change a whole lot of variables to really make it line up for Sam to actually be able to resist the temptation in the end. But okay, let's play along.
But sure, for fun, let's go there. Right.
I'd love to think that he might actually be able to do it because maybe he had it for so short a time. He only had it for a little while. Maybe it didn't quite sink its proverbial claws into him as much as it did Frodo or Gollum. But I think even that's a stretch. I mean,
yeah.
Remember that even Isildur didn't want to get rid of the ring.
Right.
How good was he? Remember, Isildur in the books, this is not the Isildur from the movies.
Sneering, sort of.
Sneering, that's a good word.
I don't need to listen to you, Elrond. You're not my dad.
Yeah, this is Isildur in the books who is very pure, who is very good.
Very.
And even he didn't want to get rid of the ring, like moments after touching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. He claimed it for himself, right?
He claimed it for himself. And Elrond's like, no, you should destroy that. And he's like, no, I'm keeping it. He claimed it as Weregild for Elendil and Anarion, which...
That's right.
Sounds like rationalizing to me, but whatevs,
Whatever works for you, Isildur, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if even Isildur couldn't get rid of it so close to Mount Doom immediately after laying his hands on it, I can't imagine Sam could either.
Yeah. That's a very good point. I think the closer the ring gets to Mount Doom, the harder it would be anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, Sam right now in this very moment, if... lo and behold, there was a little spot where he could throw the ring and destroy it, he would probably be able to because he's had it for such a short time. But if he now has to make the journey to Mount Doom by himself, he will be, maybe not months of increasing torment, but days of incredibly increasing torment and starved and exhausted and at the place where its power is at its greatest.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think he can. The only thing I can think of that might make it possible for Sam to do this would be the thing that Tolkien said about Gollum had he repented. Remember, we just talked about this a few weeks ago. Tolkien himself actually played out the what if. What if Sam had not caused Gollum to kind of turn completely evil at the end? What if he had not ruined that moment and Gollum had repented? So Tolkien played that out, and he came to the conclusion that had Gollum gone through that and genuinely repented, he would have had this desire to both, he still would have wanted to possess the ring, but he also would have loved Frodo and wanted to protect him.
Yeah.
And therefore, when Frodo gets there and can't do it, Tolkien said that he thinks that Gollum might have willingly cast himself into the fire, right? He would have taken the ring and cast himself into the fire in order to satisfy both needs, the need to possess the ring and the need to protect his master.
Yeah.
Now, if Tolkien thinks Gollum could do that, I could see Sam possibly doing that as well. It wouldn't be biting off the finger. I could see him possibly, if Gollum hadn't showed up,
taking action, actually willingly taking action.
Pushing himself into Frodo and taking the two of them into the fire.
I could see that.
That's about the only way I could do it. I don't know, or casting himself in the fire if he was by himself, right?
Yeah. No, he could only do it out of love for Frodo, to protect Frodo. Yeah.
He would have had to have had Frodo to protect Frodo. And if Frodo's not there, I don't think he could do it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense to me. That's a good catch. I like that comparison back to Gollum.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good one. Well, that was a great question. It's nearly the end of the season, Alan, but I think we got to get one more in. What do you think?
I think we do. This may already be the longest episode of the season, but
Maybe.
I think we need to do it. And this one comes to us in audio format.
Hi, Alan and Sean. This is Nikita from London. I've only recently discovered the podcast, and it's so much fun catching up and meeting people on the Discord server. My question to you both is, what is your favourite eucatastrophe in the Legendarium, whether big or small? My favourite is Frodo meeting Gildor and his company of elves in Chapter 3 of Book 1. Not only do they immediately save him from being caught by the Nazgûl, their spreading the word is absolutely crucial to Frodo making it to Rivendell at all. He's successfully saved by Tom Bombadil, Aragorn, Gandalf and Glorfindel, all of whom mentioned having heard of Frodo's plight via Gildor. I look forward to hearing your answers.
Well, she may look forward to hearing our answers, but I'm not. They're going to be hard to come by, aren't they? I'm going to let you go first because, well, frankly, I have a couple of guesses which one you might pick.
I think you might. But before I do answer this one, it's probably best that I give a brief reminder of what a eucatastrophe is for any newer listeners who might have just jumped on. So eucatastrophe is a word that Tolkien coined himself. He coined it in his essay on fairy stories. If you don't know on fairy stories, if you haven't listened to episode 1 of this podcast, go do that as soon as you're done listening to this one. You'll hear us talk all about this essay. We'll talk about eucatastrophe at length. But basically, Tolkien defined eucatastrophe as the consolation of the happy ending. Well, what does that mean specifically? I'll tell you. Or Tolkien will. I'll tell you in his words. He says, more correctly, of the good catastrophe, the sudden joyous turn. And he's playing on the concept of a catastrophe, not our modern sense of a catastrophe meaning a disaster, but the literary sense of the turn or the unraveling at the end of a tragedy.
Right.
Tolkien says, it is a sudden and miraculous grace, never to be counted on to recur. It does not deny the existence of discatastrophe, of sorrow and failure. The possibility of these is necessary to the joy of deliverance. It denies, in the face of much evidence, if you will, universal final defeat, and insofar as Evangelium, giving a fleeting glimpse of joy beyond the walls of the world, poignant as grief.
In other words, it's not just a happy ending, but an unexpected happy ending. It's one that can never be counted on to recur. Realistically, it's also one that cannot be counted on to occur in the first place.
Yeah.
And that makes it an incredibly spiritual occurrence, right? It reminds readers that there's a hope beyond the walls of the world, as Tolkien puts it.
Yeah. So with that, let me go ahead and share my first pick for favorite eucatastrophe. Right. And surprising no one, I'm going to say that my first pick is the story of Eärendil. And it's because, I mean, you're talking about hope beyond the walls of the world. That's pretty much Eärendil's story on the tin.
Yeah, you really have to. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that you went here, but in a way you almost have to. Yeah.
Yeah, because it is kind of the big one. And I could choose lots of eucatastrophic moments from that story. from the unexpected arrival of Elwing with the Silmaril to the greeting by Eonwë and the empty streets of Tirion. But I'm actually going to go with the eucatastrophe that was experienced by others after Eärendil had succeeded. And this is from the Silmarillion. Now when first Vingalot was set to sail in the seas of heaven, it rose unlooked for, glittering and bright. And the people of Middle-earth beheld it from afar and wondered. And they took it for a sign, and called it Gil Estel, the Star of High Hope. And when this new star was seen at evening, Maedhros spoke to Maglor his brother, and he said, "Surely that is a Silmaril that shines now in the west." And Maglor answered, "If it be truly the Silmaril which we saw cast into the sea, that rises again by the power of the Valar, then let us be glad, for its glory is seen now by many, and is yet secure from all evil." Then the elves looked up, and despaired no longer, but Morgoth was filled with doubt. Yet it is said that Morgoth looked not for the assault that came upon him from the west, for so great was his pride become that he deemed that none would ever again come with open war against him. Moreover, he thought that he had forever estranged the Noldor from the lords of the west, and that content in their blissful realm the Valar would heed no more his kingdom in the world without. For to him that is pitiless, the deeds of pity are ever strange and beyond reckoning. But the host of the Valar prepared for battle, and beneath their white banners marched the Vanyar, the people of Ingwe, and those also of the Noldor who never departed from Valinor, whose leader was Finarfin, the son of Finwë. And then the War of Wrath happens, and everybody's saved.
Right.
That is such a powerful eucatastrophe. It checks all the boxes. I mean, it's unlooked for. It happens in the midst of sorrow and failure, and comes directly from a current of divine intervention.
Directly divine intervention, yeah.
And it brings hope to the whole world, and I love it. So yeah, that's definitely my number one eucatastrophe.
Yeah, I have to concede that's out of the legendarium. That is the central eucatastrophe, isn't it? You know, we've talked about Eärendil being the focal point. Everything in the first age builds to him, and everything in the third age builds from him. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that is the big one of the first age. But what about you? What's your favorite? Well, you know, I think if we're talking about the moment in the story when the turn comes, a catch of the breath, a beat and lifting of the heart, near to or indeed accompanied by tears, as Tolkien put it on fairy stories, then I have to go with this moment from the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. Now, the black sails have appeared. Folk are retreating to the city. Men are shouting, "The Corsairs of Umbar, it is the last stroke of doom." Everybody is giving up hope. Eomer blows his horn and rallies men to his banner, for he thought to make a great shield wall at the last, and stand, and fight there on foot till all fell, and do deeds of song on the fields of Pelennor, though no man should be left in the west to remember the last king of the Mark. And then after speaking some very powerful lines, I'm not going to do the verse yet, they end, though, in "now for wrath, now for ruin, and a red nightfall." We read this. This is the eucatastrophe. "And lo, even as he laughed at despair, he looked out again on the black ships, and he lifted up his sword to defy them. And then wonder took him, and a great joy. And he cast his sword up in the sunlight and sang as he caught it. And all eyes followed his gaze, and behold, upon the foremost ship a great standard broke, and the wind displayed it as she turned towards the Harland. There flowered a white tree, and that was for Gondor. But 7 stars were about it, and a high crown above it, the signs of Elendil that no lord had borne for years beyond count. And the stars flamed in the sunlight, for they were wrought of gems by Arwen, daughter of Elrond. And the crown was bright in the morning, for it was wrought of mithril and gold. Thus came Aragorn, son of Arathorn, Elessar, Isildur's heir, out of the paths of the dead, borne upon a wind from the sea to the kingdom of Gondor. And the mirth of the Rohirrim was a torrent of laughter and a flashing of swords, and the joy and wonder of the city was a music of trumpets and a ringing of bells. Oh man, I got to tell you, I get chills, and honestly, I get teared up every time I read this.
Absolutely, man.
I mean, even now, starting to read it gave me chills.
And I can hear it in your reading. It's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And I mean, sure, look, the destruction of the ring is the eucatastrophe of the Lord of the Rings, but this is the moment that gets me every single time. And I can't wait until we get to dissect that and talk about it in depth next season. Wow.
That is a hard one to beat, honestly, even with the Eärendil moment. That is a fantastic one.
It's just written so powerfully. Tolkien's words there build and build, because you're really with Éomer is like, okay, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a last stand. I'm going to die. And he does this great verse, these great stanzas. And then, I mean, he literally, okay, the word is cast, so we're not necessarily, he cast his sword up and then sang as he caught it. He throws his sword in the air, folks. He is ecstatic with joy.
Yeah.
What a beautiful moment. And
that's
it's
pretty
just
amazing.
So, hits right in the heart.
Like, you go back to the Silmarillion, and that's why, like, I wish that we got the full Silmarillion, like the full dramatic novel form of the Silmarillion instead of the outline that we get, because
I know we get snippets of it here and there, but
because you're right. When Tolkien wants to write a eucatastrophe, man, can he do it. And that's
talk about near to tears, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's a wonderful answer. I like your answer.
Oh, well, thank you. I liked yours. So there we go.
Well, thank you. But I think yours is better, actually.
Oh,
I guess if we were to pick seconds, do you have a second one?
Sure.
I think,
yeah, of course I do. I have like a third and a fourth and a fifth, but I think we probably only have time for
I know.
If we don't read, we just could like talk about it.
So just quickly, like if I had to pick a second one, going back to Pelennor Fields, again, surprising no one, Éowyn's defeat of the Witch King. And I like this one. So, like, the one you just read, like, it really touches you in your heart, right? That's, like, the really, emotional eucatastrophe.
That's the turn. That's the near to tears. Yeah.
My brain loves this one. I mean, look, we've been told that no living man can defeat the Witch King, and there's no reason to believe that any person can.
No, you don't read that and think, oh, well, okay, so a dead man can, or a living woman, or a hobbit. Yeah, nobody thinks that. It's not code language.
Right, exactly. And yet, right in the midst of what we assume to be certain defeat for Éowyn, or Durnhelm, because we don't even know it's Éowyn at the time.
That's right.
A sudden miraculous grace occurs, which is that the Witch King has misread the prophecy. Uh-oh.
Oops.
And
I love that.
Even though it's a small one, it's just one moment on the battlefield.
Yeah.
I love it. And I think the reason I love it so much is because it is Tolkien's response to the famous prophecy in Macbeth, which we've talked about on this show before. You know, Macbeth misreads the prophecy that no man of woman born can kill him.
Right.
He doesn't realize that Macduff has been, born by C-section. That is actually the catastrophe of the tragedy of Macbeth. That's the literary catastrophe. That's the turning for Macbeth.
Yeah.
Tolkien's taken that and he's twisted it, turned it on its ear, turned it into a eucatastrophe in its own, in his own story. And so that concept comes full circle. And that's the part that just is like, mind blowing for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I do love those moments like that where you see all the threads come together and your brain is just blown by how he ties it all in.
Yeah. So I'm probably a little predictable with my answers, but those are mine.
Eärendil and Éowyn.
Yeah.
I think my second might come as a surprise. I'm going to go back to book 1 for my alternate. The arrival on the scene of one Tom Bombadil. Not only does he save the hobbits from Old Man Willow, and that's a eucatastrophe, but he then proceeds to save them from the Barrow-wights, another eucatastrophe, and gives them the swords of Westernesse, including the one that Merry would use to weaken the Witch King on the Pelennor, scoring an assist on Éowyn's goal.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a walking eucatastrophe in many ways, let's be honest.
Oh, Tom Bombadil, well, he's prancing, hopping, singing eucatastrophe.
Singing.
Dancing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
No, great answer. I love both your answers. That was a great question.
As I do yours. That was a fun question. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Nikita. Wonderful question to end the season on.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, it does wrap it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony podcast. Now, we cannot tell you right now if this is the last episode of the season or not. The surprise that we're working on hasn't been confirmed yet. So if this is goodbye for season 6, be sure to join us in September as we pick up The Return of the King and book 5. Now, our summer hiatus will be a little longer than usual as we continue to write our upcoming book, create summer episodes for the Rings of Power wrap-up, and continue to prepare for our upcoming in-person moot.
And speaking of which, we will be releasing some information on that moot on the RSS feed just as soon as we have it.
Yeah, it'll be like a little mini episode release.
Yeah, we'll do like a little quick announcement or something.
Yeah.
But just follow our socials and visit our website for information in the meantime. Something should be coming very soon.
Very soon. I hope so.
As for the question of whether this is our last episode of season 6, I'm sorry we can't give you more of an answer.
Yeah.
We hope it's not the last episode because we have something really fun we're working on if we can make it happen.
That's right.
But no matter what happens, we want to take a moment to thank the team that helps make this show better. That's our research assistants, including Marilyn R. Pakila, as well as our Barlowman, Becca Davis, producer Jordan Rennells, social media manager Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, and website guru Phil Dean.
And speaking of the website, please be sure to give us a visit at theprancingponypodcast.com. We've got show notes, hilarious outtakes, Prancing Pony ponderings, and our online storefront where you can get all sorts of PPP merch.
And you're definitely going to want to check out our library page. You know we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we've provided links for you to get nearly every book we mentioned on the show. And we do get a few pennies from the purchases you make there, so thank you.
Indeed. And now we want to thank some more really important people, our patrons at the Kierdance contribution tier. I'm going to start with DeMay in Alaska, James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, B in California, Joseph in Texas, Kathy from North Carolina, Lori from Washington, Carlos in California, Brian in the UK, and Ned from Connecticut.
And then there's also Jerry from Washington, Joe in Washington, Erwin from the Netherlands, Dylan in Australia, Ben in Minnesota, Anthony in Texas, Dorwin in Michigan, Karen in the UK, Zaksu in Illinois, Jim in Maryland, Brian in Texas, Sarah in New Jersey, and June in Ireland. Mm-hmm. Folks, thank you all so very much for your support.
Indeed.
And everyone listening, please be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcast app is.
That's right. And one last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and, well, most of all, your cosplay ideas for a small person dressing up as a great big elvish warrior to Barlowman at theprancingponypodcast.com. And if you want a chance to have your actual voice heard, like we did with Nikita's question tonight, you can send us audio of you asking your question by visiting podinbox.com/prancingponypod and record your question for us.
Just make sure to still send the question to Barlowman for us, please. Now, Barlowman's a lot more reliable lately, but we do get a lot of mail, so we promise we'll get to you as soon as we can. And hey, your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
Indeed. As always, this episode, and quite possibly this season, has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time,
farewell, friends.